welcome to Elizabeth Oval. It's round 16 in the SANFL, and this afternoon, live from 2 till 5, it's Port Adelaide sitting second on the ladder, taking on the Bulldogs, who are third. A big clash, the round of the day. Stay with us, and if you're at home and you're not feeling too well, like our producer Christy Copley, stay with us. I'm sure you'll enjoy some action, and Christy, we hope you're feeling a bit better. Joining us this afternoon, Ken Sheldon, as usual. Ken, Port Adelaide haven't won out here since early 1994. It's a big record to overcome.
Certainly is, David, but it's most interesting to note both sides to mine lacking a little bit of pace. Steinburner out of the side with a leg injury, Cotton gone up to the AFL, and with just a few other players out of the team, I think it'll be a very physical game.
Saywell missing for Saywell was named and is not playing.
Yes, I think it's sort of goal to goal line, the Port Adelaide side, with the inclusion of Hodges, certainly the absence of Delaney. However, Ambrose will come back in, possibly play fullback with Nigel Figott coming into this team. I just think they might be a little more physical and win for the first time since 1994.
It's going to be a physical game, isn't it? Who are you going for?
I'll go for Port. They really did stick it up me last week. I've got to admit that. I thought Norwood would have won. They had every thing to play for. However, you could just never knock Port Adelaide. They are a terrific club, and I've just really almost turned. But they're black and white, so I'll just stay my way a little bit at this stage. But I think they'll win today, David.
They've done that to a few commentators, Ken, over the year. Of course, down on the boundary line, Mark Nally, the man who, around the grounds this week, has been doing a little bit of recruiting homework.
A little bit of recruiting. I mean, that's right, David, but just once again, I'll let you a little bit of a tease. I'll let you wait until half-time, till the hard as nails comment. Yes, I'll wait till then, but I've got a few things that I've got to bring up at half-time.
Well, you're down on the boundary line. What are conditions like down there? It would presumably suit Port Adelaide a little better.
Yeah, it's overcast down here. It's not too bad. It's a little bit soft underfoot. At the moment, the Port Adelaide reserves are up by about 100 points, which is a good start for the day for the Magpies. But I just also believe that the Magpies will win their first time out here since 1994 as well. I'll go along with Ken Sheldon. After seeing the Magpies last week destroy Norwood at home, they are just too strong in form, and they're going back to the basics. And I reckon just with a couple of other players here, they're missing on the Bulldogs lineup is Wind. He's gone with a knee injury. Also, Michael Wakeland. I mean, they're missing those two players, and just to recover those, those two players, the losses are, really do outgrade the inclusions that they've brought in this week.
Fair enough, Mark. And of course, Jimmy Wind out for the year. Bad blow for the Bulldog side. But I believe down there with you, you've got a man who's just come back from the West. He's a bit of a moneybags man. He travels a fair bit.
Yes, that's right, DP. I think you're talking about me. The money bag threw me off there for just a moment. Should be a good game today. I disagree with both of you guys, though, and Ken Sheldon and Mark Nally, that is, because I think Central Districts can actually win. Had a quick chat with Steve Wright just moments ago, and I think you'll be surprised when we look at the Central District lineup of some of the movements he's made. In fact, Scotty Lee and Stuart Dew, you'll find, are playing on a full forward line. How that works, I'm not sure, but certainly Scotty Lee might enjoy the ability and the chance to kick some goals, DB.
Now, we're going to focus on you, Robbie. You've been pretty accurate, lady. So you're a Bulldog man. You're tipping the Bulldogs today?
I am, DB, but most importantly, we're at round 16, and I haven't seen you or heard you give a tip this year, so I'm going to put it back on you and say, DB, who do you think's going to win?
Good on you, Rob. I'll give that to you just in a moment, but for now, we're going to have a look at some vision from the 70s and some interesting predictions that were made over 20 years ago.
I think that we're going to find in the next few years when football becomes a vehicle for sponsorship, that sponsors are going to find professional sport and the attributes of our game with its physical contact and spectacular play will really be useful for prime time, night, live TV.
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Stay with us at half-time. We'll give you the full version of that. There's some interesting things said by Daryl Hicks. Now, at the time, I think he was the head of the NFL, the National Football League, and some of the things that he had to say further into that interview, very, very prophetic. So stay with us at half-time. You'll enjoy that. Well, Ken, one of the interesting things this week, Justin Madden retired. Now, you played with him at Carlton, 332 games, great career, has worn the number 44 more than any other player in history.
That's true, and he certainly has been a great player. The dinosaur, the Justin Harry, as he's well known to the football public and to his mates. He's been a great character, one of the president of the VFL, now AFL Players Association. He really has had and made a big statement to the game of football. He really has been terrific.
Yep.
And it is I guess your time catches up with everybody. The way that he was able to bow out of the game is typical of Harry, and I think he's done very, very well.
Nails, now you roved with Big Harry, and he's a pretty fair character with a pretty imposing record, but very few better tap ruckman.
Yes, you're right there, David. I mean, I just had an experience over a couple of seasons. It was 4 seasons with Big Harry. I mean, he really was a character, a very likeable sort of person. He stands about 7 foot tall, but I still remember one of the stories on Moorabbin Oval against Ken Sheldon's old side, where he went down to wipe a bit of mud on his face before the start of the game. This is back in about 1989. He went down and you're having to pick up a bit of horse poo that'd been laying on the ground before the horses went past him before, but that was quite an experience. Big Harry with this horse stuff all over his face, all over his arms, all over his shoulders before the start of the game. It was quite a humorous moment.
Everyone has a favourite story, of course, about big Justin Madden, but this is what he had to say about his departure.
Well, get a kick, you've got to be an angry young man with a bit of a chip on your shoulder. And I haven't been an angry young man for some time.
The man with great sense of what we like to call it social justice. You'll make a very good member of the Labor Party in times ahead.
An ordinary footballer who played an extraordinary amount of games, and maybe somebody who contributed to the players' welfare off the field as well as on.
Yes, great character, and of course it leaves a big hole for, as the president of the AFL Players Association, as Ken just mentioned to you a moment ago. Peter Mann is the heir-elect, but according to the Players Association, it's not fait accompli. Here is an article. Now, Fremantle captain Peter Mann is set to replace Justin Madden as the president of the AFL Players Association. This is an article out of the Melbourne papers during the week, but that is not completely ratified. And here Peter Allen said that the appointment, still to be ratified, would further indicate the growth of the player's body, because Mann was from Perth rather than Melbourne. And Ken, I'd probably put that to you. How important is the chief man at the Players Association as president of the Players Association?
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter which state or where he does come from, but Peter Mann has a football history. His uncle, in fact, played for St Kilda back in the 60s, and is a solicitor, so football and I guess, well, the right educational background is behind Peter Mann. So, you know, if he is to step into the breach, I'm certainly he'll be able to conduct himself well.
Mark, I suppose the question needs to be posed. A Perth-based Players Association president, a difficult position to steer the ship from.
Yes, you think it would be, but you see, I mean, it's supposed to be an Australian competition, which we're sort of experiencing at the moment. I mean, it's fair enough if a person with the qualification of a Peter Mann can sort of fill Justin's boots. Well, I will support him, but I'll be a little bit concerned about Peter Allen's position as well. I'm not quite sure whether that's too secure as well.
That's fair enough. Peter Allen, Mark, and that's what you're alluding to. There is a bit of a coup de grace against him, and there is some talk that even though he has 3.5 years left as his tenure as the chief executive of the Players Association, that there may be a group out to try and replace him. You've got wind of that as well?
Yes, I heard that during the week as well, that he possibly, there's a few people that aren't too happy with him, but also I just feel that, OK, he's got a 3-year contract to go. Now, he really is only really like a legal advisor just with their contract or disputes. I mean, that's where his sort of situation is, so I really can't see there being a major problem with Peter Allen.
Now, Ken and Mark, I've got some bad news for both of you. The taxman is going back 10 years and investigating AFL players over the past 10 years, particularly looking at where they've derived their income from and the receipts that they've got. Now, I suppose you two guys would be pretty nervous. Oh, no answer, no answer. Now, that tells us a little bit. Mark, there was some rumour that you got that big bag of cash from Carlton when you signed on.
No comment.
We don't want to put you into the tax department. We don't want to really get you into the thick of it, but I think you're out for a big payout, son.
I'm going underground, I think. If the taxation department doing that going back 10 years, I think Ken Sheldon would be in trouble as well.
Well, Ken's lost all his hair worrying about the tax man.
Oh, no, look, your dues are duly paid by now, surely.
So you paid your money, everything's okay. We're not going to see you blokes getting taken off to debtors' jail.
No.
So there's nothing in that at all?
Not at all.
All right, well, the AFL Players Association is certainly going to have something to say there. Retrospectively, they're going back and getting some of these blokes. It'll be very interesting times ahead for some of the league clubs, that's for sure. Well, one bloke who is pretty interesting is Andrew Jarman, and this week he had a bet with Greg Anderson. The bet was that if Port Adelaide beat Norwood, then Jars had to walk down the mall in his jocks and socks. Well, when he went something like a sumo wrestler.
Expect the unexpected with this young man. Don't worry about that. You have to work.
You start that. Come on, donate some money. I'm on my way.
Yeah, he's weak. He's weak. Greg Anderson's weak.
Oh, he's going to show us more, is he? Come
Freezing me. Jimmy, it feels off. Just imagine playing like this way, eh? Hey, just imagine playing footy with this side.
Come on, where's your money? Get on, mate. There you go.
Well, yeah. Just lost a little bit, that's all.
He's not bad, is he? Now, that was raising money for a good cause. It was for the Childhood Cancer Research, Jars. Well done. And I'm not sure that they were your jocks and socks, though, Jars. You need to have a look at how you put your undergarments on. There's the premiership table. Norwood sitting top of the ladder. Port and Central, second and third. Ken, if Port win today and Norwood go down to Sturt, then Port can grab top spot.
Yes, it's a big game for Port Adelaide, and as I say, I think they really know how to get up for the big ones. They proved that last week defeating Norwood. I think they'll get up today.
Mark, Jimmy West sits on top of the ladder, 48-15, pretty accurate.
Yeah, so the sensational season we saw this morning. I mean, he's playing his 200 game. It's just a fantastic effort what he's done this effort. But 48 goals, 15, that really is a sensational effort from full forward.
And in other games being played around town today, West Adelaide take on South at Richmond Oval, Norwood and Sturt. Pretty big game, you've got to say, given Norwood's form the last couple of weeks. And North and Glenelg at Prospect Oval, also an important one as to really whether North can consolidate a spot, Ken, inside the 5.
North have been red-hot form, haven't they? And draw last week, but they really have been in good form.
Well, they beat Norwood, they beat Port, and then a draw last week. So they are perhaps a late chance, an outright prospect of getting up and having a shot at the title.
Rosenboom and McDermott aren't playing today, but with both of those players in the side around finals time, I think they have a real good blend of pace. Squire, if he's not with the Port Adelaide side, I just think North Adelaide have good up and down the spine with some real good pace, as well as eliminating a bit of handball out of their game. They look pretty direct and pretty good to me.
Well, this game takes on a pretty formidable look, doesn't it? Well, Port Adelaide and Central last met in round 7 down at Albert Oval. It was a torrid affair.
Hodgson behind, he takes a jump. Really grabbed hold, but McGuinness does it beautifully. He checks sides on the right side of it.
Jim Wynn now will run into an open goal. The wind has dropped just marginally. Wind into an open goal and bagged Central Districts first, just as the wind has actually died down.
One step, bangs it in long. Here comes Treadway, and he's got it.
Bamford, Geneva, doesn't shirk it. Look at that.
The body,
now, that is just fantastic, Tim Geneva.
He knew it was coming, didn't
he? Good call.
Hate to talk over you, David.
No.
I love seeing players like that. Pace here showing. He backs himself. Steinberger goes for it. Heads up towards goal. As he kicked it through, I think he has. That's his first for the afternoon. Which way will he go now? He'll go towards the goal face. He's got Hodges on the lead. Hodges brings to the ground. Which way will he go? He'll go for a goal. He snaps it around his body. And he's kicked the goal. Scotty Hodges. When you need him, he delivers.
And there's the final score, 12-15-87 to 9-11-65. Port Adelaide got up by 22 points. Hodges kicked 4 and Conway kicked 2, but it was a torrid affair, Ken, wasn't it? As we go down to the central change room, and the Bulldogs are pretty relaxed earlier on, just warming up and going through the warm-up procedure. They're very professional. They've got a great room to warm up there, and they use it for about 20 minutes, make sure everyone's warm before they go out.
Yes, and they'd be very comfortable with these surrounds. Their home ground, a big advantage for them today.
Yes, the big ground does suit them, doesn't it? They'll miss Steinbuehner, as you've said, and say well. And Stevie Wright just overlooking the charges. So he looks pretty good. Well, Mark Nayley went out during the week, caught up with Stephen Schwert and asked him how he's overcome his recent spate of injuries.
Well, Stephen, I'm sure most Bulldog supporters want to know, how are your injuries going?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, Mark. I've had a few weeks off early on in the season with a knee injury, and I played a couple in the reserves and I'm back in the league side the last few weeks, so I'm feeling pretty fresh and hopefully just coming to my peak towards finals times.
Well, last time you met Port Adelaide, it was back in round 7. They beat you by 22 points. How do you approach this week's game?
Oh, we approach this week like no other week. We've had a great tradition, I suppose, over the last 5 years against Port in the finals, and we've drawn a game with them in the final, and always had some good battles. But we've had a pretty good record out of Elizabeth, but our preparation's been good. Guys are very focused, and really looking forward to the week.
Well, you talked about your home ground. How much of an advantage is it?
Well, probably not against Port as much, because I think Port's grounds are similar to ours. Ours probably a little bit bigger. But I think we do have a bit of an advantage because we've won so many games here in a row. We've only been beaten by, I think, Nord, last time I can remember, for the last 3 or 4 years. So we've had a pretty good run.
Both sides have lost a few players this year to the AFL, being Port Power and also the Adelaide Crows, but you've received a couple of major injuries in Jimmy Wynd and also Michael Wakeland. How much of a loss have they been so far this year?
Oh, they're a huge loss, obviously. Michael's coming into playing probably close to 100 games, and Jimmy's an AFL experience, and he's played heaps of games, so he's got a lot of experience also, and they'll be sorely missed.
And finally, Stephen, are you passionate for the game? Have you still got it, and how much longer will we see you running around the park?
Oh, for sure. I love playing footy, and I'll probably go as long as I can keep going for my body. My body's pretty good at the moment. Feeling pretty young, so I can see myself going for at least another 5 years minimum, I'd say.
Good on you, Schwert. He keeps himself pretty fit. And there is the Central District lineup. And Rob, you like Centrals today, but what do you like about them particularly?
Well, just looking at that lineup, I'm not sure, DB. But I tell you what, it's a surprise, isn't it? That full forward line, the captain Girdham in one pocket, Stewie Dew, traditionally maybe a wing half-back line player at full forward, and Scotty Lee, well, he won't know himself down there in the other forward pocket. But I tell you what, that throw around in the team could cause some problems with Port Adelaide. And if we look at Port Adelaide's side now, you can see that themselves, they should be fairly settled after a good win last week against Norwood.
There we go down to the Port Adelaide change rooms and just have a look at the boys going through their warm-up. And as always, Ken, they're very, very relaxed. Power at the ball and body. Now, that's something they've been using for years and years.
And that's something about Port Adelaide, isn't it? Foss Williams, Jack Cale, like, really, they've just been traditional. They've been a strength of the Rock of Gibraltar, like, forever, basically, and they're just based around some simple football basics.
Darren Smith on screen, Phil McGuinness with the ponytail, and there's Stephen Williams in screen. He's proved himself to be a pretty reasonable type of coach. As we go to the Port Adelaide lineup, and Tyler back in form, Ken, at full forward.
Yes, it'll be interesting to see how he combines there with Hodges and D. Smith, three of the best forwards in the competition, three talls, of course, mixed along with the youth of Borlase, or I should say Burgoyne and Ashley, and the experience of Borlase. Rowan Smith across centre, combining with the tagger Higgins. Nigel Fegert back into centre half back, putting Ambrose back to fullback. And Jarks and Gilligan, the ruck combination, will be something of interest to watch.
Fair enough. Well, Mark Tyler named at full forward. Of course, he had a year with Glenelg last year and back with Port Adelaide this year. Mark Nayley caught up with him during the week and asked him how he was enjoying his return to Port Adelaide.
Well, Mark, you're back in the seniors last week. Are you enjoying your time back with Port Adelaide?
Yeah, it's been good to get back and play with the club that I've played with all my life. And after the injury for nearly 2 months, it's good to be back in.
Your own performance last week, you kicked 4 goals, one in a terrific game. I mean, the passion and emotion that you showed after every goal was just great. I mean, you must have enjoyed it.
Yeah, after a long-term injury, you tend to think you're going to be out of the game for a while, so that's got my enthusiasm back and I'm keen to go again.
With the loss of so many players this year to the AFL, I mean, it's good to see the young players coming through, the names of Ashley and also Higgins, and also young Poulton and also young Clayton. I mean, they really are some up-and-coming champions as well.
Yeah, they've all been good contributors. I mean, it's all right for a young bloke to come up and just make up the numbers, but each of them have been in the best players consistently all year.
How big of an advantage is Elizabeth Oval to the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I think so. It's always a bit of trouble travelling anywhere, and they're always hard to beat out there, but I think we've got the game to do well.
And finally, what do you see as being Port's strengths, and why will you win today?
I think after last week, everyone believes that we can do the hard things all day, and if we can keep it up all day, we should have a good result.
As Tim Ginniver and Roger Girdham toss the coin, Daniel Cow, the umpire, puts the coin up, Ken. And Timmy Ginniver has won and is kicking to the north of Elizabeth Oval. A pretty important toss to win, but both coaches know the importance of today's game. Mark Nayley got out and about and during the week caught up with Steve Williams and Stevie Wright.
Oh, it's a fantastic advantage for us. The size of the ground suits the way we play the game, and also, we've got some fantastic supporters out here, and they really help get us over the line.
Yeah, I think it's it's definitely an advantage for them playing at Elizabeth. Home ground is always an advantage for the home side, but we've played them a couple of times this year at Elizabeth in trial games and have performed pretty well, so we're going up there with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, last week's game, I believe that we really put the pressure on them in the end, and we lifted our intensity. But this week, I think we'll have to really have that intensity right from the start of the game.
Talking to our players this week, I've sort of emphasised that this game will probably be tougher, because it's at Elizabeth and because, we've beaten Centrals the last 2 grand finals, so they're obviously very keen to beat us up there.
Anytime you play against Port, it's always a physical game. We like to play the game that way, so I believe that both sides will be going at each other.
Yeah, if we can beat them this week, it puts about a 3-game gap between us and just about assures us of a double chance. So we've talked about that, and if we can win this, it really puts us on the way with the Eagles next week and then the bye. It sets us up for the season.
Well, it's a very difficult ground to play on because of the size of it, and it's a very long ground and a very wide ground. So sides who come out here once every every year, really do have difficulty playing here.
I think out of all the opposition sides, Central's played as similar to us as any other side, so it's important that we can hit the ball hard and perhaps unsettle them a little bit early and get a few goals on the board, because it's important, I think, to be in front rather than trying to come from behind out there.
Yeah, certainly we need to play their back line very, very hard. In that I mean that their back line is their key and they get the ball and run and work together, so we really have to play well in our forward line.
Well, I think Rick McGowan's obviously a very important player for them, so we'll have someone, probably Brett Higgins, to keep an eye on him. And centre-half forward Darren Smith's been playing probably the best footy in 2 or 3 years for us, so I think it's important that he continues to play well, so whether they pick up him with Conway or Geister, only time will tell. And full forward with Mark Tyler, his form last week was terrific, and Scott Hodges back into the side. It should give us a good two-pronged attack.
Yes, a very important attack with Tyler and Hodges and Fegert coming back in, presumably playing at centre-half back. As we go down to the boundary line, Rob Popplestone, weather conditions, Rob, important today?
Well, they are, but DB, it's absolutely perfect down here. There's not a breath of wind. The ground is a little bit soft underfoot. Probably in horse racing terms, you'd call it dead. But I tell you what, there's no excuse for not fine football to be shown out here for the next 3 hours and in front of a healthy crowd. So the atmosphere should be good as well. And I think that might be the difference between Central Districts and Port Adelaide.
Fair enough, Rob. Thanks for that. As we go to Mark Nally, Ken Sheldon, some important players. Schwerty on screen, number 40, back for the Bulldogs, and Hodges for Port Adelaide.
You see Stephen Swert and Scotty Hodges. It looks like he has been having a few McDonald's or Hungry Jacks of late, hasn't he? That girth is looking rather large.
You're a harsh man, Mark Nally. Now, he's missed a lot of football, to be fair, and he's just going to take probably 3 or 4 weeks, as he usually does, to get back into something like his best form.
3 or 4 weeks. Look, he's probably put a little bit of beef on. I think we can see that there. That jumper's a little tighter than perhaps it normally would be. But Hodges is a class player. If he can get the opportunities down there early in the game, he'll certainly be able to put through the goals. He is a finisher player and is one of the very best full forwards ever to play in the competition. But he certainly is a little bit out of condition as it looks there. Scotty Lee in screen there, playing up forward today, apparently. Great player, Scotty Lee, admired by a lot of people and has played a lot of football in defence.
Gilligan goes to the bunker. Lures on the bench too for Centrals along. You might just pick that up for us. Setri there in the middle. So the first term about to get underway at Elizabeth Oval. Stay with us. We'll be live right till 5 o'clock. Should be a great game. The last one was 22 points of throbbing football. And your commentators, Mark Nally and Ken Sheldon.
The umpire just waiting. We can see umpire Tim Pfeiffer, Ron Bretridge and also Daniel Quayle are our 3 men in white this afternoon. Just waiting for the players to get themselves in position. At the moment, we're just looking at the start of the game. The Central Districts have not got one player forward of the centre squares. You see the big fellas go over the ball. Big Jarks gets his first hand to it. He knocks the ball forward. Mark taken by Clayton. He'll go back and look down. So there's a bit of a strange ploy there, Glenn. Just not starting with only one person across the forward line. Hasn't been seen by the Bulldogs before. As the ball goes out wide. This is Potter. He turns, looks down. Got the running Hicks out wide, but he wants to use him. He doesn't. He comes inboard. Swatala takes it, gives a handball over the top. The big fella in Arnold goes forward, kicks the ball high. Some strong body work. Great courage shown by Lockwood. And that'll build his confidence. Good grab taken. He gets the ball moving quickly from 50 metres. He drives it towards the goal square. Northeast over the top. Nearly gave away the free kick. And the ball's just rushed over by number 10 for the Magpies and Mark Clayton.
It's a good tactical move by coach Stephen Wright. It's important now that the Bulldogs do capitalise and utilise their extra men in defence as they run forward, and they must kick accurately. That's another part that they've got to pick up, though, is when they do kick behinds, they've got to be quickly running up the ground to pick up their Port Adelaide counterparts so that they can't release easily out of defence.
Swatala with the ball from half forward goes long, but look at this. Now, this is a fellow I know you like, Mark, is Clayton. And kicks it around his body. Beautifully directed play onset. The umpire
McGowan flicks it out. Scotty Lee, first chance for a goal, goes long, and it's wide of the mark. It's a point. So 2 points on the board for the Bulldogs in the opening minutes.
And an important hip and shoulder here by Rick McGowan.
On Feagit.
On Feagit. Feagit back from the Port Adelaide side this week. You get so used to saying the Crows, don't you, over the years? A bit like Footscray and the Western Bulldogs. Change upon us.
So the ball kicked in by Ambrose. Good mark taken in front. That's the big fella in Jarks. He gives it to the running players outside. That was McGuinness. Across to Clayton. Pick up his third possession in the first opening minutes here. Good start. Good mark taken. It's Cotter. Got plenty of red, white and blue jumpers out wide. Scotty Lee. He's got Lockwood out here on the wing by himself. Plenty of runners. As you can see, they're just verging forward together. This is Lockwood looking for the lead. He goes around Feagit inside 50, goes for the goal square. Couldn't quite keep his direction. Kept the cool head, but just couldn't execute the school.
And with Scotty Lee playing up forward, started the first opening bounce in the midfield. Central Districts will try and chip the ball through him as a loose player through the corridor, and you'll find Central's having long shots for goal. It is imperative that their accuracy is found. Otherwise, this type of thing will happen continually where Port Adelaide will just clear the ball from defence.
Hicks on Ginnivan. Strong body, so Central's making their game plan well. No, McGuinness was off. Well, the umpire gave him the benefit of the doubt. And now McGuinness will be lucky not to lose the ball. Potter won't take any of that, and he'll just love this. 25-metre penalty. Well, crikey. If he wasn't off, I'll go he.
It was relayed back to Ginnivan earlier, though, David.
OK, thanks for that. We owe the umpires an apology. Thanks, Ken. 50-metre and Ginnivan takes the kick. Goes long. Thanks, Ken, for that. Loose ball falls. Brenton Daniel claimed, goes to ground, and Borlase's wrapped him up beautifully.
Now you can see here, Scott Lee will be down there in the centre pitch there around the action. He's brought himself forward from the play. North East will be left back unattended, as will a couple of other Port Adelaide players. They won't really get too concerned. They'll just hold their position, play their structure, and over a period of time, they'll eventually end up on top.
Jarks down to McGuinness. Good work, Geister on the left boot, distributes it long to Potter. Clayton came in late and just tried to clean him up. Potter's a tough customer. When it gets tough out there, he's an important man to have. So's this fellow. The skipper, Girdham, just chips it in, beautifully placed. And underneath that, taking the mark was Chambers. Flicks it out, Holm the runner. He's played beautifully since the middle of the season. Big fly from behind Dew, up before acceptances. Loose ball falls, Dew comes back on it. North East did it beautifully, and Ambrose the clearing kick.
Good contest out wide. Again, that player in Mark Clayton takes another possession. Gets to his feet. He's got Higgins over the top if he goes that way. That's the direction he's gone. The moving Smith comes out. He gets a nudge forward. Umpire calls play on. So the Bulldog defence will run it out once again, as we have seen. This is Swatala. He comes towards centre half forward. Feagit with him also in there. Feagit just grabs the ball out of the pack. Spirals the ball forward. Again, we see Borlase across to Smith. He'll back turn, gets collected by Daniel. The umpire calls holding the ball.
And a very, very important tackle right in the midfield. It's a 100-metre turnaround. If you consider that Rowan Smith, had he been able to use the ball, it would have been in Port Adelaide's forward line.
Well, he wasted the kick, though, Ken, didn't he? And Clayton, who's picked up 3 possessions in the opening minutes and playing beautifully. 5 possession, Ken Sheldon tells me. Thanks for that, Ken. And to the far side, Burgoyne. Well, misdirected kick. Scotty Lee just dropped back on it. Plays on, flips it out to Schwert. And Schwert on that famous left foot drills it long to Hicks, who's going to be an important player today. Flicks it out wider still. Stevens running. They really are charging the goals, Centrals. A long left foot to the square, and Dew shepherds it through. The crowd likes it. Centrals get there first. They're 1-3, and Port Adelaide are yet to score.
And that's important that the long goals are kicked by Central, adapting this tactical ploy where they're putting extra men in defence and then running the ball through the middle of the corridor. They've got to be able to kick the long goal. That's a fine goal. Paul North East making the incorrect decision there, leaving the attack on the running player far too late.
So the 6.5-minute mark of this first quarter. All the attack has been by the Bulldogs. They lead by 9 points. Again, big fella and Jark gets his hand to the ball. Good tackle by a couple of tough customers. The young Higgins, who I've been feeling impressed with over the last few weeks. Plays a similar style to Michael Wilson. Ex-Port Adelaide player, or still a Port Adelaide player, but now Port Power player in the AFL.
The Centrals today without Cotton, who kicked 4 last week against the Eagles. Steinburner, who got 18 odd possessions and was an important player for them. They've covered them pretty well.
Burgoyne goes forward inside 50, just needs to control the kick. He couldn't quite get it there, it's hit the post. So the first score on the board for the Magpies. They are 1 point. They trail Centrals 1 goal 3-9.
Well, young players, unfortunately, that does happen. But Burgoyne, if he could have that over again, he would kick 19 out of 20. The simplest of goals missed, and he's got to learn that from that as a youngster.
Scotty Lee played onto himself and forces it wide to the far side. Adam Swatala out at half-back. Redirects it long along the outer wing. Big fly Conway, two-handed attempt, couldn't bring it to ground. Carr gets the hurried kick into space, and look at this, Scotty Hodges. Well, I'm not so sure, fellas, that you could be too critical of the big guy. 29, missing 6 or 7 games. He's going to put on a bit of condition, but he does seem to get it back pretty quickly. And you indicated maybe 6 or so weeks. Well, that means the season's virtually over, but he can get himself back into shape pretty quickly, this guy. He's done it before.
Well, he's a professional. It simply just demands a little dedication, and 6 weeks' time he'll be coming into the right time of the year.
2 steps, steadies. Oh, doesn't he kick the important goals? And didn't they need one there? And he got it. Kicks the important one.
And that's where the class, you just can't replace it. It's as simple as that. He's the best forward in the competition, and there's just proof of it. Good play there by Port Adelaide. Good, fierce approach on the ball, and Hodges sitting back.
That's the thing about running off Scotty Hodges. You leave him alone, and he's left alone as we go down to Popplestone on the boundary line.
Thanks, DB. Interesting what Central Districts are doing at the moment, isn't it? So many runners coming off that half-back line, but you saw then on a quick turnover, they're being caught out, and Scotty Hodges had plenty of room. Alternatively, Shuey Dews leading from behind at full forward for Central Districts, and that's going to cause a few problems with so few Central Districts forwards.
So 9 plays 7. The Bulldogs just a 2-point margin. Coming out hard, it's Clayton. Gets the ball out to Higgins. Higgins couldn't quite take it. Girdham's there. He's dumped by Higgins. Should have received a free kick. This is Potter. Clever hands back to McGowan. McGowan into his left boot. Kicks it high again. Lockwood's back there having a tussle with Fegan. To clean up the contest is McGuinness, who kicks wide. Higgins up against McGowan. It's a great duel between a couple of tough customers. And Higgins runs the ball out over the line.
Stephen Williams sitting in the central grandstand, goes for the phone. Plenty of focus. Now we saw one AFL coach at Subiaco get into a bit of trouble in an open-air box. Ken, what about the SANFL coaches?
Oh, I think it's just part of the game, David, like rugby league been doing for years. I guess just part of the caper. You've got to be able to conduct yourself. You're a role model. You've just got to be able to conduct yourself wherever you are.
Comment, Ken Sheldon, former St Kilda and South Adelaide coach. Jarks and Arnold go at it.
I was just going to add, though, we're all prone to making mistakes, David.
Good on you, Ken. We're all human. Oh, clever McGowan. Just flicks it out and starts the Central's run. But look at the rebound of the Port Adelaide defence. Fegan to Smith. Rowan Smith wide. Burgoyne almost got there. Flicks it up. Potter gives him a little bit of physical pressure, and Burgoyne in the finish just out-bustled.
Very talented youngster, but you'd love to see him grab that with 2 hands and just take off rather than trying to paddle the football.
So Arnold again with Jarks. Ball Ace tries to break through the pack. Numbers are fairly even here. Stevens ends up with it. He's looking for support again. He finds it inboard. That player, Chambers, kicks it up. Lockwood comes out. The ball bounces the right way for him. He should control as he couldn't quite pick it up. They're not quite reading the bounce at the moment, both sides. This is Ashley. Straight for the ball. Good hit forward from the defence of the Bulldogs. Plenty of body work being done off the ball. And the free kick is going to be awarded to the young player in Tom Carr.
Carr from the outer wing. Pretty exciting young prospect, only 19 years of age. Certainly with 12 games under his belt, plays it pretty tough and tight. A long ball towards half forward. Darren Smith paddles it forward into space. Around the corner goes Matthew Ashley. And look at that, great courage, Potter. Flicks it forward. and they're able to set it up and run pretty well, the Bulldogs. Chambers, deep in defence, just across the top. Butters up, Rowan Smith gets him. Cotter got through traffic. Now Hicks, plenty of distance at centre-half forward. The lead's on deep in the pocket. Crashing out is Dew, over the top of it. Now that's a good contest. The height and strength of Ambrose and the pace and skill of Dew. You wonder whether a good big man will beat a good little man. Good work, Holm, just forced the error. Polton long, a big fly, and it's a big one to Hodges. Long way from home in the forward pocket. Marks between half-forward flank and wing and goes long to Tyler. But look at this, Hereda. One bite and it couldn't bring it to ground. Tyler crashes through. Stevens couldn't control him. Now Timmy Ginniver dispatches a quick kick forward. Daniel over the top. It's pressure out there. Tyler's got him and he goes to ground. It's a bounce.
We've got 3 other games being played around the state this afternoon. We see Scotty Hodges just with Cotter, but we see West and South. West up by 1 point. Norwood by 13 points. And finally, North Adelaide and Glenelg. We've got the Roosters up by 19 points. This is Cotter, couldn't quite take it, couldn't get there. He gave across to McGowan. McGowan will chip the board forward. He does that. He finds Switala. So Switala kicks it up. The back is Hicks. With him is Northeast. Behind him was Fegan. Plenty of work. Clever work done by Clayton across to Higgins. Higgins kicks the ball forward and Ball Age takes it. Some solid work being done off the ball, isn't there, Ken?
Yes, there is. A bit of congestion, a bit of, well, I guess,
a little bit of spite in the game,
misunderstanding.
that's what I'm trying to say. A little bit of spite at the moment. Blokes just giving the ball. They've been hit.
I think it's early. Both sides trying to exert their physical presence out there. Ashley tries to get through. Chambers claimed him. Jennifer couldn't get it away. Walker now. A hurried one around the corner. It will be aggressive. You've got to say that for the first 15 minutes or so. And Schwert, short. Daniel working hard, covering plenty of ground. So the Central District defence holding up pretty well. It's 2-point ball game. The Bulldogs enjoy the lead. We're just on 14 minutes into the first term. Hicks, big fly, not paid by the umpire. Play on as McGuinness flicks it long along the boundary line, and Ginniver quite content to carry it out.
Disciplined play there from Ginniver, using his experience there, will create a neutral situation, 50-50 deal from the throw-in.
So again, plenty of pressure being shown by both sides as Tom Carr takes a good mark. Just used his lightly framed body very well there. He kicks it high. He's looking for the backers, Tyler. He pushes the player forward. Hereda dives over the top of Hodges. Again, we see players in there. The ball's kicked to the top of the square. Which way will this ball bounce? Which one will it favour? Didn't favour Burgoyne. Terrible handball coming out of the fence. Let's give Ginniver a chance to kick a goal. I think he's done it. Has made the distance, hasn't quite got there. And the spoil from behind pushes it over the lines. Another behind to the Magpies. They're 1 goal 2-8. Central's 1 goal 3-9.
So after the initial tactical victory, I guess you'd say, by coach Stephen Wright, where he loaded the defence and had a very open forward line, Central District running the football into attack, Port Adelaide have settled and fought their way back to a pretty even ball game now.
Scotty Lee short to Schwert. Back to Scotty Lee in the overlap. And even wider still, that's obviously a set play, and it's worked this time for them. Geister, a long ball. Stevens was the target. Walker underneath that one. Neither player could get back to contest it. It sits nicely for Stevens. On the left boot, he goes forward. Fegert just lost his footing. Now crashing through Lockwood. He is an exciting player. Caught one high and went back for the ball. Good desperation, Lockwood. I like the way this kid goes about his game, Ken, and just at this stage, he hasn't found his feet with the power. But what you see is just exciting.
Yes, he has glimpses of class, and that will be a great duel at centre-half forward where he's playing against Nigel Fegert at centre-half back for Port Adelaide.
Reminds me of a young Paul Roos in the way he just runs and goes at it. If he turns out half as good a player as Paul Roos, I think the power will be pretty excited. Ashley just holds it in. McGowan couldn't get clear. And I don't think Rick liked a little bit of attention he got at the bottom of that pack.
Ricky McGowan been playing very well at this early stage of the game. In the centre, of course.
So it's the Bulldogs marked by a point.
Ball's put down again. Fegert up against Hick. Good knock forward. Across to Lockwood. He brings it back inside. He's made it the distance. I think he has. He's got the accuracy. Good shepherd in the goal square by Stewie Dew as well. That's his first goal for the afternoon. And Central's now go out to a 7-point margin.
And what a great understanding by those two players. Hicks there just punching the ball to space. And Lockwood, though, that's a very, very good goal. Exploiting the lack of pace, or perceived lack of pace, in the Port Adelaide defence. Clearly the tactic by the Bulldogs coach, Stephen Wright.
We go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've got the benefit of an action replay up there, but I'd be interested to see if Clayton didn't touch that off the boot. It certainly looked like it down here at ground level.
We'll have a bit of a look at that for you, Rob. Sharp eye from your angle. Rowan Smith around the corner on the left. Polton in the midfield. Another player that's impressed Mark Nayley, Jared Polton, towards centre half forward. Conway, the big spoil from behind. Loose ball falls to Higgin, another exciting player. Walker skirts the issue and goes wide. Out to Borlase at half forward. Just steadies and settles and chips in Hodges, and it's a mark. He got it in front of Hereda. He just let him get away for that split second.
And he got it lace out. What a tremendous kick by Borlase. Summed up the situation perfectly and just put it right out in front of the fast-leading Scott Hodges.
Yeah. Great a player kicking in for goal in crucial moments. This is the guy I'd want. Who could forget last year against Norwood when he really kicked that dazzler to put Port into a grand final? Misses this one, but he gets the big goals generally. Now, Rob Popplestone asked for a slow-mo replay of whether Clayton got there and touched it. Well, you be the judge.
Scotty Lee out again. Looking for the big fella in Arnold. He takes a good grab in front of Jarks.
Hasn't he improved, Mark?
Oh, he has. He just gets better and better. Still filling out a bit as well as the big boy. So Arnold kicks the ball. Hicks out in front. Good spoil from behind by North East. Stevens needs to throw to his boot very quickly. Keeps a fairly cool head, finds Hicks and just taps it across to Switala. Switala onto Holm. Holm has got the leading due, won't get that distance. And the centre half back for the Magpies, and Nigel Figa takes the mark. He's got the running car and also Smith out wide. He goes towards Smith. Ambrose is further down the field. Inside his car. The umpire should indicate that it's play on. He went to give the handball.
Didn't deviate from his line, Mark.
So Arnold takes it. Around his body again. The big fella on Ambrose from behind. He'll back himself. He can go back wide to Smith. Does that very, very intelligently. So Smith goes down. Bit of a kick at the end-to-end at the moment. We see the big fella on Hereda on the outer wing.
25-year-old goes towards centre half forward. Opens it up. Now this will be an important contest. Port Adelaide can go straight down the corridor as Geneva gives it away to Clayton. A long ball wide to Darren Smith. He's the target. It didn't bounce kindly, though, for him, did it? Hereda went back after it. Good courage. Oh, Conway, good commitment. And now Schwert under pressure. Flicks it out wide. McGowan the target. Higgins running with him as we go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
Just short of the 20-minute mark of this first quarter, as we've grown used to, DB. The ruck's changing off the bench for Port Adelaide, coming off in a few moments' time.
The Professor.
With Daniel Jarks and also Gilligan to come on.
All right, the Professor comes on.
So we see the ball. Still, the game has just slowed down for a moment or two. We see Potter coming out to the support of Lee. Lee's taken before he even received the football from Clayton. Bit of a professional free kick. He knew where it was going. He just took the player out to slow the game down. So Scotty lead. Good lead showing up forward by Hicks. Found some space. Just puts the ball to the ground. As we see the free kick, he does that. Just was tackled by North East. So Hicks quick to his feet. Chips the ball again forward. Jew's got the chance to have a leap and a jump at this. In front was Carr. And a good mark taken by young Tommy Carr.
Doing everything right, Tommy Carr. A very, very good game for a youngster.
Figat is emerging at centre half back as well. Stevens thumps it away across the line.
The first goal that Port Adelaide kicked through Hodges' boot, it was through the result of Tom Carr attacking the ball strongly across centre wing, and there he took a courageous mark right in the last line of defence.
Jarks off, free kick and a ruck infringement. Arnold the recipient for a Shepherd, said the umpire. And Arnold takes it about 70 metres out from goal. Leads are on, goes to square it up. Big one charge out. Rowan Smith, great commitment at the contest. Loose ball falls. Chambers tries to flick it out. Now Carr, everything going his way. Figat, a hurried left footer, will dribble towards the boundary line. Burgoyne just inside the line will take on Jude. The youngsters go at it. Now Ambrose with a handball to Carr, who's followed on beautifully. Recovered from the far side of the ground to make the space, and Darren Smith spoiled by Conway.
It's really arguable whether that's a mark too. I think he really did have it, and then the spoil came. But it was a fine kick by Carr right out into the space, allowing Smith to run hard into the footy.
Good crowd here at Elizabeth Oval. She's Scotty lead over the ball. It had to be in the vicinity of around about maybe 4,500, 5,000. The ball comes in. It's got over top of hands. I think it has. Some good work. I think it was Cotter. So Craig Cotter brings up his first for the afternoon from the half-back flank. And Central's now 3 goals, 3-21. Port Adelaide 1 goal, 3-9.
That's the problem, Ken. When Burgoyne comes down into defence, he drags the defender with him, and he's paid the price.
And that's a fine goal too. From out from a long distance. Beat them all. A very good goal by the Bulldogs.
3-3 to 1-3-2 goal buffer to the Bulldogs as Potter dispatches the handball under pressure. Schwert, a hurried one forward into space it goes. Chambers clean bolt. Carr goes back after it for Port Adelaide. Just settles nicely, doesn't he? He's got a steady head, this kid. Scotty Lee and Ginniver. Off the ground goes Tim, and out of bounds goes Tim.
Well, I guess these things happen in footy. We've always talked about, we talk of the good things that Timmy Ginniver does, but there's just a mistake, and one that he'll make up for in time.
Schwert, 29-year-old, said to us during the week he'll play for another 5 years. Let's hope he does. He's a terrific athlete and a real goer for the Bulldogs. Higgins through traffic. Just made it look simple, didn't he? Gives it off to Clayton, who's starring in this first term. Probably one of Port Adelaide's best in the opening quarter. A long ball towards full forward. Schwert got back just to affect the spoil, and Cotter will relieve for the Bulldogs.
Ball's up there. Free kick's been given. Which way will it go? The umpire indicates it will go towards the young fella in Suatala. Not much of him. Very lightly framed. Good kick on him. From behind was Northeast. Lockwood looking for the running support. He hasn't got one coming. Tips the ball in towards home. He's got there. Under a bit of pressure now. Fegert throws his body in hard to him. Gives him a little space for Clayton to take it. He goes out wide and to Smith. Smith comes inboard, and a strong mark taken by Hodges. He wants to get the ball in the goal square quickly. From behind is Smith. Uses his body intelligently on Conway and just goes in and brings up his first goal for the afternoon. And the Magpies are back, Ken.
What a tremendous goal it was. If we could go back to half-back and see that shepherd by Nigel Fegert, understanding that Clayton had the run of the football. That's the 1%ers. That's what coaches just love to see. Rowan Smith used the ball so well to Hodges. Hit the ground like a cat, took off, went bang to Darren Smith, who dropped back to full forward, and Smith again, just upon receiving that football immediately, instinctively took off and put through a fine goal. A tremendous goal for Port Adelaide.
So 21 plays 15 at the 25-minute mark of this first quarter. It's a 6-point ball game. In comes Woodtala for another possession. He keeps the ball up forward. Good hands by Lockwood to Stevens. Stevens kicks it up high. Jews have a jump at it, but great courage shown by the experienced Paul Northeast.
It's the preparedness of the Port Adelaide half-back and wingman to jump back into the slot is unquestioned. That's great courage there by Northeast.
Polton dropped the mark he should have taken. The ball's chipped forward. He knocks it forward. You see the support out wide. Swatala again has picked up a lot of possessions in this first quarter. Holmes there with Polton. Polton's over the top. The kick's only just gone as far as McGowan. So McGowan puts Hicks under a fair bit of pressure. Good once again shown by the back line of the Magpies. This Polton takes a very strong grab. So Polton again kicks it up. In front was Gilligan. At the moment, the smaller running brigade of the Bulldogs just have the points over the Magpies.
Well, not much in it, Ken, is there? Tight game, as you'd expect.
Oh, very tight game, and tactically, Stephen Wright, the coach of the Bulldogs, has pulled a winner, but Port Adelaide have settled.
As Clayton dispatches the kick forward, Hodges caught underneath that one. Brader's done a pretty good job on him. Gurdon flicks it out. Stevens further afield. Swatala under pressure from Bourlays. Now Potter back to Gurdon. Look at the sharing of the ball. Central's cleaned up was Cotter by Carr. Burgoyne flicks it out wider still. Fiegert, the runner. Plenty of space in which to work. The ball doesn't sit for him. And now an opportunity for Chambers around the corner. Northeast, a contest with Hicks. Swatala comes in, but look at the good work by Carr. Hasn't he been steady? Clayton and Carr have just been fantastic.
You can see the physical presence in the game. It was Carr, that player, that was able to lay a tremendous hip and shoulder on.
Again, Gurdon's taken from behind. The young player in Walker, the ball chipped up. Potter again showing great courage. We saw it in defence before, only moments before. He decides to go back. He was only 45 metres out. Can't see why he went wide for.
Eyes only for the ball, number 28.
Cotter comes off. Coming on is Matty Jones, the other Tasmanian. And that's a goal. And the siren sounds. It's a 12-point ball game, Ken, in favour of the Bulldogs.
And it's an important goal there by Potter. He's been in the best players, the better players for the Central District side, along with McGowan. I've been very impressed with number 43, Adam Swatala, playing on centre wing. Lockwood and Hicks have created something special across half forward, and Lee has been in there and abouts. For Port Adelaide, Clayton, Tom Carr across half back, combining with Ambrose and Fiegert, the two talls there. And Rowan Smith has done a couple of little things, and Hodges on a couple of occasions. But generally it's been Central District that have been the aggressors and the attackers. They've, well, from the onslaught, from the outset of the game, I think had the ascendancy and looked to be a little better at this stage.
So a tough opening quarter here at Elizabeth Oval. We see the Magpies there, 2 goals, 3-15. The Bulldogs, they're leading. They're 4 goals, 3-27. You're seeing the action live at home on ABC Sport.
Well, one player who's missing for the Bulldogs, even though they enjoy a 12-point lead today, is James Saywell. He's out with the flu today and missing, but he came back from Fitzroy just 18 months or so ago. Training run, he fell off his bike and did a lot of damage, and he's one player. I don't think you'll see him riding a lot of bikes around the Elizabeth area. Today, we profile the speedy Central wingman.
I've played 61 SANFL games. My career aspirations are to work in the zoology area, probably in the Adelaide Zoo or some surrounding department. My football aspirations are to become a life member of Central Districts and hopefully win as many premierships as possible. Go to the movies, spend time with my wife and my pets, and just go around the park and have a walk or something like that. My other favourite sports are tennis, golf and basketball. I think every opponent I stand every week is my toughest opponent. I think it's a good breeding ground for young players to go into the AFL, as the importance of the SANFL. Plus, people who aren't quite good enough to make it to the AFL can have a good long career here in SANFL. My biggest influence in my career would be my parents, especially my father, as he obviously played here first before me and taught me all my skills during my younger years. My most significant memory will be my first league game and also getting drafted to Fitzroy in '93. My first football game was for Elizabeth Downs Primary School. We played I think under-10s modified rules, and I cannot remember the result. My prep routine is basically the same every week. I try and follow the same diet and the same things I do during the morning, but I'm flexible.
He's been a pretty good player, hasn't he, the 24-year-old, and a great football pedigree, of course, at Elizabeth. Well, it's a 12-point ball game here at Elizabeth Oval. It was a quarter of some great clashes and some great marks. Lockwood took a terrific mark early and set the scene. McGowan cleaned up Fiegert, and I think that just set the scene beautifully, Ken, for the whole quarter.
Yes, it was a very physical quarter, and it was one which was started with a bit of frustration from both sides. You've seen a lot of turnovers at half forward on both teams' respective forward lines because of the unusual setup that was put in place by the Bulldogs coach Stephen Wright, where he started 4 or 5 players in defence from the first bounce. The only player, in fact, was due in the forward line.
Lockwood kicked a good goal. Hodges got 1. There were 6 goals kicked for the quarter. The Bulldogs got 4. Port Adelaide got 2. But I think Central's really got theirs a little easier than the Magpies.
Well, they were able to run through the midfield basically without any pressure. Then it was just a matter of how good they were with their execution, and you've seen that fine long goal there, which a couple came their way. The Bulldogs, Darren Smith answering with the second for the Magpies.
So 12-point ball game at quarter time as we go down to Rob Popplestone. Stevie Wright would have had, I think, some words of encouragement for his boys, Rob.
He did, DB, especially to young Stuart Dew, who hasn't seen much of the ball to date, but he said he needs to present himself a lot more because through the midfield and half forward, he's fairly happy that they're winning enough of the ball, but getting it down to the full forward line, young Stewie Dew's been caught behind a few times. There are pockets of players with Central Districts who spoke between themselves, very positive and very encouraging of each other. Behind me, Port Adelaide, of course, Steve Williams was concerned that Central Districts were rotating their side, and therefore a lot of his players weren't sure who they should and shouldn't be picking up. So he suggested that out on that field they communicate consistently with each other to make sure that if they're not on their man, they are on a opposing team's man, just to make sure no loose men running through that midfield, DB.
Rob, Craig Cotter went off after a heavy clash. Have you been able to ascertain whether he's okay?
Look, he's not too bad at all. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me, although he may not start early in the second quarter, he will come back on at some course during the game.
Thanks for that, Rob. At quarter time here at Elizabeth Oval, it's Central 4-3-27, leading Port 2-3-15, the margin 12 points. Lockwood, Cotter, Potter and Stevens all got one for the Bulldogs, and Smith and Hodges the important keys in the forward line for the Magpies. Ken and Mark, tell us about the stats.
Well, you can simply see there that it's all pretty even, really. Central just shading Port basically in all areas, and that's probably the difference of a couple of goals, perhaps one or two players extra in favour of the Bulldogs. You can see there the free kicks, however, probably the most glaring statistic.
As we go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
Thanks, DP. With me, the coach of Central Districts, Steve Wright. Steve, a tough start to the first quarter.
It was very much like a finals game. I asked our guys to go hard at the ball, and they certainly did that.
And you're rotating the team around somewhat?
Well, we're changing around. We're trying to catch them a little bit off guard, and in the first quarter it certainly worked.
And I seen you talking to Stuart Dew just momentarily, wanting him to present himself a little bit more, I'd think.
Oh, no, I was quite happy with him. He shepherded through a couple of goals, didn't get a lot of the ball himself, but just to keep working.
Good on you, Steve. Good luck for the rest of the game.
Thank you.
Back to you, DB.
To Stevie Wright and Rob Popplestone's Craig Cotter on the field, fellas, looking quite okay.
It wasn't really that big of a bump, I don't believe, but he still felt it. Still shook his bones a little bit, Ken, but it's good to see the player back out there again. We're just waiting for the start. We see Coach Williams just coming back up into the grandstand. Players are just trying to find their positions. Perfect conditions, not even a breath of air out there. The oval's in immaculate presentation.
So we're about to get underway with the second quarter from Elizabeth Oval. The umpires, Tim Pfeiffer, Ron Bettridge and Daniel Cowell, all pretty experienced umpires. Your commentators, Ken Sheldon and Mark Nayley.
And again, Mark, you can see the Central District side adopting a tactic. 3 extra players in defence. The only forward they have in their complete forward line is Stephen Dew, right in the goal square.
Young Stewie Dew, one out. A good ploy. We see umpire Ron Bettridge puts the ball down. Big Jarks up against Arnold. Jarks keeps running through. The good kick out there was from Gurdon. Only just gone as far as Polton. So Polton got the running Ginniver out wide. He finds him. Ginniver, the clever player, tries the bulk and weave. Realised he hadn't got the pace of yesteryear and decides to get the ball onto the boot as quickly as possible. The young player in Walker on the outer wing. Good opening, 4 possessions, a couple of marks in that first quarter, a couple of touches of the football. Jarks in front. Over the back, the big fella and Arnold. Let's take a little bit high. He puts a tackle on Higgins. Ginniver again gets the ball forward. Hodges runs out. Couldn't quite get there. McGowan across to Schwert. Schwert's got the loose player forward. And that is Cotter.
Cotter from half-back seems to have recovered from that heavy knock. But he's a tough customer, this fellow.
Pretty handy first quarter. 4 kicks, 4 handballs and a goal.
He's only 22, Ken, and we see some tough AFL half-back flankers. Is this fellow up to it, do you think? You reckon somebody might have a look at him?
Well, I think they'd have to have a look at that type of player. Like, he is tough and hard, and that's one of the real requirements you need in AFL footy.
McGowan comes back in board on the left boot. A long ball towards Hicks. Hasn't that been a great contest? Hicks and Northeast. Hicks just paddles it forward, but look at the recovery by Northeast. Tunnel balls it towards the boundary line. Lee Walker goes back after it.
But Holm thumps it across the line, pushing it forward. And a terrific crowd building up here at Elizabeth Oval. If you're thinking about coming down to the football, I think the second half is going to be quite terrific. Oh, well, Potter just cleaned up Jared Polton. Need some fillings, Mark.
And we do.
But really, that's what football's all about. Like, you know, protect the ball carrier. Potter's teammate was in direct line of the footy. What else is Potter going to do? Stand there like a stale bottle or do the team thing? He done the team thing. That's why he's such a great player.
Plenty of work shown here. Neither side can get a full. Walker just chips the ball out. Good handball under fair bit of pressure. That's Walker there now. Gets tackled. He's thrown to the ground. Should have been given hold of the ball. We hear Ken Sheldon in the background. Kicking up wide. Feagit up with Northeast. Northeast takes the mark. They can go wide. That's the direction. This is Clayton. Not quite sure what he's going to do. He goes wider to Ambrose. Ambrose will just chip the ball up forward. Puts a fair bit of pressure on Burgoyne. The bounce came his way. Burgoyne in blistering pace takes on the evergreen Scotty Lee, who just kicked up with him. But there is Brian Raider, the fighting Raider. No, it's not. It's Geister. Paul Geister takes a good mark.
Geister on the left boot, switches it out to Swert. He's got Cotter in board, but McGuinness just chopped off that option. Short was Gurdon. That's ignored. Now there's 3 or 4 leads to the goal missing. Here comes Hicks now. Heads in that direction. Oh, it was beautifully weighted, wasn't it? Hicks feeds off. Cotter the runner. Burgoyne just not running within 15 metres of him. Towards half forward. Hands up. It was Lockwood. Thought he'd marked it. Pleaded for the umpire. Holm applies a tackle on Feagit. So too does Stevens. And in other matches being played today around town, West Adelaide by 1 point over South Adelaide. Norwood by 38 points over Sturt. And North by 6 goals over Glenelg.
Okay, some strong work being done at the bottom of the packs. We just saw before those updates a good mark, I thought, taken by Lockwood to centre half forward, control the ball from the air down to the ground. Lucky not to receive it. And Jarks up against Arnold. Hicks is in there, so's Ginniver. Potter is playing one of his better games for the season. Ball's kicked forward, Jude behind, there's a great mark, plays on and kicks a goal. That's Stewie Jew's first goal of the afternoon. The first one for the quarter for the Bulldogs. And they just extend their lead to 18 points.
Stewie Dew using his strong physical frame to advantage there, just pushing Ambrose under the football, taking a good mark. But it's Potter who emerged with that footy from the scrum. He's the playmaker for the Central District side. Him and McGowan are having a big influence on this game, getting a lot of in-tight possessions.
33-15, an 18-point ball game in favour of the Bulldogs. They do play this ground pretty well. Gilligan thumps it forward. Scotty Lee drives it long through the midfield towards centre half forward. Hicks and Northeast. Northeast thumps it away. Clayton really is probably playing his best game of football for the Port Adelaide club today. He is killing them from defence. Stevens just inside the line, but had already run across before he dispatched the handball. Stevens, Ken, doing the 1%ers. That was a criticism perhaps 3 or 4 years ago that he didn't do those, but clearly now that's an aspect of his game that Stevie Wright has improved.
Yes, and he kicked a fine goal in the first quarter on the run.
Well, he also put the ball in long to Stewie Dew, and it's his long penetrating kick that I think is an asset when he uses it. He used to go short, but when he goes long, he looks a much better player. Umpire Danny Cowell puts the ball to ground. It's the Bulldogs by 3 goals. Jarks thumps it forward. Holm pushes it back from where it came. Jarks comes again and goes to ground. There'll be another bounce.
Just taking up on that point, David, I think it's good coaching and it's good understanding, good discipline, from a good acceptance of the coaching from the man himself to understand that he's better to go long, like eradicate the excuses, play to your strengths.
So McGuinness, a quick kick forward. Smith uses his body well. Connor again gets the ball onto his boot. Unfortunately, couldn't keep it in. It's gone out of bounds on the full. So Higgins.
Just an indication, Mark, of the pressure out there, isn't it? Even mental pressure.
You see the Magpies backline running forward, just trying to drag their players up the field. We see Swert now, who get onto it. On his wrong side of his body, and he kicked the ball that way as well. Not known for his right foot. Ball just been chipped around. It's gone up forward. Smith in the best position. Could nearly take it. Conway does. Again, it's kicked forward, but only as far as the captain, the Magpie captain in Geneva.
And you'll see quite a bit of this. Both sides have extra players in defence because of the tactical structure that coach Stephen Wright has put into place for the Bulldogs. So players, when they come out of their opposite of their own defence, are confused.
Jared Bolton pushes in towards Borlase. Burgoyne paddles it forward, very clever, chips it around the corner. Hodges underneath that one, couldn't quite take possession, and it's out of play.
Just back to that point, David, the normal forward line structure is not in place for both teams, so players are just finding themselves in, I guess, new territory.
Now, Ken, you might just have a look. Stewie Dew's come out to centre-half forward. North East went back to pick up Dew at full forward, and Dew came straight away up centre-half forward. They're trying to exploit North East's lack of pace, and Ambrose has gone back to Hicks, who's gone to full forward.
So you've got to have all the contingencies. When you put a plan such as this in place, you've got to have all the answers that the opposition coach will put to you.
Stevie Wright obviously wants to have North East out in the half-back line. Bolton around the corner, snaps. It's Hodges, good shepherd for Tyler. That's unselfish work. Tyler flicks it back. Hodges one step, shoots for goal, offline. Now, when you haven't played much footy, Ken, it's your touch that deserts you.
Yes, it is, and a difficult goal, you must say. 1-2 as Hodges kicked for the afternoon now.
Got a blood rule coming up. Looks like the young player here in young Jared Polton's coming off.
Now, Mark, you've got a comment on the blood rule at half-time. Stay with us. McNally makes comment of the blood rule. And some recruiting matters, Mark, I believe.
Yeah, so for those people, I will be picking my best 25 players that I believe that will come out of the SANFL next year that should be taken up by any AFL club. So
as we go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
Thanks, DB. You called Polton coming off, but coming on for the Port Adelaide side will be Paul Evans, so he'll certainly add some strength across that half-forward line when he makes his way down there.
Thanks, Rob. Girdham flicks it out. Cotter playing pretty well. I suppose Cotter and Clayton at the other end across half-back dominating their positions. Burgoyne, that's Cotter's man. Was he caught holding the ball? He was, said the umpire. And the man who got him was Stewie Dew.
Love to see that on replay. To me, it looked like he just got the handball away. No. Good decision.
Good decision. So
sorry, mate.
Stewie Dew kicks the ball, beautiful kick. He is a lovely disposal of disposer of the football. He finds his power teammate and also Bulldog teammate in Lockwood. The ball's kicked up high, punched down. Again, the back line pushes it up. A chance here for the big fella, and Arnold couldn't quite get there under a fair bit of pressure. Holm gives it over the top to Stevens, coming in hard as Girdham. He goes to Dew. Dew tries to break a tackle. He too could have got the holding of the ball. Wasn't on. Some great solid work by Holm and also Jarks. Finds it with a Raider. Raider chips it up. A chance for Cotter. Over the back is Swirt. Just take it, kick it. He gives the handle. Unselfish football by Swirt. And the goal's kicked by Hicks as he's taken out and hit from behind by Evans. May receive another free kick. Will we see it?
The all clear has to be given. And before that can happen, the all clear wasn't given.
So you did read your rule book last week that I asked the Couriers to do.
I read it every week. I gave you blokes a copy.
I must say that's a big goal in the context of the game. Inconsistency from the umpire's point of view. I thought that should have been a holding the ball decision against Central District, right at centre-half forward. Not given, and the overflow results in a Central District goal.
Bulldogs taking up the physical contest, no doubt about that. Scotty Lee caught one from Rowan Smith, still dispatched the kick. Lockwood, a good contest at centre-half forward. He's been important. So's this fellow. Carr playing deep in defence, flicks it around the corner. Stewie Dew, who's out from full forward, now playing across half forward. And Carr got across to the second contest. It was terrific.
There's tremendous persistence. And what has been important about Lockwood's game and that of Hicks is the preparedness of their teammates up the field across centre wing to use them when they're leading to the space, exploiting the lack of pace from the Port Adelaide's half-back line.
So 11 minutes into the second term. 39 plays 16.
Your little mate Nathan Steinberner is missing. So too Saywell. So the Bulldogs got a little bit of pace to come back into the side, Mark.
Yes, they really are taking up to the Magpies at the moment. They are exploiting in that area. We see Figure going for the safety of the boundary line.
Let me say to you, people have been saying that Port Adelaide have been slow for the last 10 years. They just keep winning flags, this slow old side.
It's not perhaps so much where they're lacking today, though, I think. It's just in their preparedness in the midfield to win the football. Like, their want is not as great as the Bulldogs.
Well, North East has gone for the goal square, looking for a pass over to Hicks. Unfortunately, along their own wrong sides. It was nearly taken by Hicks in the goal square. We've got a few other games being played around Adelaide today. There's 3. The South still hanging on to their lead by 5 points. Nord by 39 points over Sturt. And North extend their lead over the Bays.
McGowan snaps offline, and it's a point. He's picking up plenty of the ball. 14 possessions so far, and 6-4 to 2-4. It's a 4-goal game.
Yes, and being tagged by Higgins, but Higgins not having any influence on the game, so perhaps some change needs to be made there. But it is the midfield of the Port Adelaide side, McGuinness, Geneva, Borlase and Higgins, that really need to lift.
Swatala pushes it out to Scotty Lee. Isn't he finding a bit of the ball? So's this fellow, Girdham. Short to Holm, who's a tough old customer. With Potter and Holm in your side, I think you're going to have a fair bit of aggression. And Stevens just got it. Mark Nayley wasn't quite convinced about that one. So Scotty Stevens flicks it out to the far side. The lead was on from Hicks. Sells the dummy. Now goes around the corner. Pushes it wide and out of bounds on the full.
The ball's kicked back in. Ambrose takes it. He drives it long. The back is Lockwood with the sit. Takes the mark. He couldn't quite contain it. Over the back there was Burgoyne. First to get it. He kicks the ball around his body. Some strong work by Conway and Smith. McGowan again onto his left boot. Sets it up beautifully there for Girdham. Under a bit of pressure from Evans he was. Recovers first was Girdham. Carr's taken from behind by Potter. Quick hands inside to Cotter. The umpire has seen the flow. Down the field knows the whistle from outside. We see Ambrose goes to the ground of his feet. Under a fair bit of pressure is North East to Fegan. Hands it off to him. Dew comes around, picks up the ball, kicks around his body and kicks another goal. That's his second, and that is positive football by Stewie Dew.
And that's where the kid's got a real chance to make it at the AFL. Like all the other players in that flow of play were able to basically muck it up. He just had one opportunity and made it count.
Now that whistle that you heard, Mark, was from the crowd. So I think Centrals, who have been malingering that they haven't got the free kicks they deserve lately, maybe have brought their own whistle. We might talk to the boys at BM Magazine about that. A couple of culprits there. They might have something to do with getting the umpire's mind right. But Stewie Dew, wasn't that spectacular? Great goal, he's second, and the Bulldogs looking pretty good. They're 5 goals clear, and we're only 14.5 minutes into the second term. Borlase, can Port Adelaide mount a recovery? They need an important goal here. Smith just couldn't quite gather the sit of the ball. Hodges comes out, claimed by Geister, goes to ground. It's a bounce.
Things really not going Port Adelaide's way. Borlase's kick just should have hit Smith right on the chest. It wasn't to be.
Can Port Adelaide build something here? Jarks flicks it down in the direction of Geneva. But Brenton Daniel was good enough to just dispatch the tackle and get the kick away. Scotty Lee, who's been very important, Ken.
And prepared to work to the front too, a good lesson.
So Girdham, long, Potter underneath this one. Clayton, oh, he's good, and there's a wrestle on the outer wing. That's Fegan.
And I think it's Potter.
Well, we haven't got his best angle, that's for sure.
28, number 4, Lockwood. Teammates.
Well, he doesn't give away anything. Yes. I think this game means a bit. Oh, Walker, big fly. Geneva, clever handball inboard, and getting the kick away was Evans, but he missed the target again. And Herrera, I think, will be quite content to see the ball across the line.
Both sides, probably a reflection of the real pressure that's out there. What a great week, but just missing the target with their foot disposal.
The big fella takes it across there again to Walker. Scotty Hodges just short of a run at the moment. You see Raider, couldn't quite keep it in.
Lee Walker, nicknamed the Phantom.
So once again, the ball's thrown in. Big fella and Arnold. Geneva ends up with it, goes back to Geneva. He throws it on his boot quickly. There's an open goal square. Getting back there is Cotter. Couldn't take the mark, but rushes it through for another behind. So 7-4, 46. plays the Magpies 2 goals, 5-17.
To the far side. Long ball, Lockwood, front position. Fegan from behind. Oh, he liked it, Fegan. Just went back to let Bowen know about it. So that's turning into a great duel as well. There's a few of them circulating. Borlase into McGowan. McGowan flicks it out. Well, I think Bowen got the second laugh, didn't he? A big, long torpedo towards centre forward. Clayton and Potter, 2 tough customers there. And it's a dead heat. So we go down to Rob Popplestone.
Thanks for that, DB. Down here, Polton, who, of course, left the field due to the blood reel moments ago, is ready to come back on. And surprisingly enough, Tyler is coming off that full forward line for the Port Adelaide side.
Yes, I don't know, Ken, that you can play Tyler and Hodges across that line.
Well, I think you can, but not when you're being beaten in the midfield. And I think it's the right move by coach Stephen Williams to relieve one of those players and bolster something into his midfield.
I think
there, wasn't he?
Somebody from the central crowd got his goat, but never seen an on-field player win that contest. It just shows that your focus is not in the arena.
So Lockwood kicks it up behind again as Hicks will run into another goal. He does that. He hasn't kicked it. Had the time. 20 metres out. Should have put that through the big sticks, but he hasn't. So they move on now. 7 goals, 5-47. Plays Port Adelaide 2 goals, 5-17.
So Port Adelaide now with Scott Hodges in the goal square, the only player in the 50-metre arc. Darren Smith at centre-half forward.
Well, Popplestone on the boundary tells us that our BM secret agents are working on the Port Adelaide players. Scotty Lee. Towards full forward. Oh, Hicks has got it. Front position. The umpire had no choice but to pay the mark. And that's a crucial one. And a 50-metre penalty. Ambrose threw the ball away. And umpire Daniel Cowell had no choice.
Now, the Port Adelaide players really... They've been sucked in here and they're just not retaliating in the way which they should be.
So Hicks gets his second. He's kicked 2-1 today. He's making an impact and the Bulldog fans like it. They're 8-5, quarter 2-5, 19 minutes into the second term.
A really good goal in the context of the game. From a kick-out situation, they were able to pump that ball back quickly into their full forward line where a fine mark was taken. Adrian Setri coming onto the ground now for Port Adelaide. Add some energy into their midfield.
So 53 plays 17, the 19.5-minute mark of this second quarter. The big fellas are at it again. Big Arnold gets his hand on the ball. Comes out wide. This is Swert onto his left leg. It's high. Holmes from behind. Coming through is Ambrose. Will go for a bounce, run his distance. Kicks it wide. A foot race between Stevens and also Ashley. Stevens jumps on top. He gets the hold of the ball, but Ashley holds it into his chest. We'll see the umpire come in and throw the ball up. Ball's down. Lockwood up against Jarks. In there again. Goes out wide. It's high. And behind is Ambrose. Hicks in front. And Ambrose prepared just to spoil the ball out over the boundary line.
Stevie Wright, along with Chris Grant, the club general manager. And it looks like that's David Flood in the coach's box. So the football experience there, no doubt about that. Burgoyne bustled off it, couldn't recover it, and Danny Holm in there. He seems to be always in every contest, a bit like Potter, Scotty Lee and Girdham, Ken.
Well, it's what you want in these conditions. A bit of zing is off the track. It's probably ideal for football.
It's a slog. Carr playing particularly well out of defence for Port Adelaide. Pushes it wide towards the line. First man there, Rowan Smith, can't beat the line. In other matches today around town, West Adelaide lead by 2 goals over South Adelaide. Norwood by 45 points over Sturt. And North 58 points, stepping away from Glenelg.
Big margins. Tyler in there, Northeast in there also. They should go over the between the point post and the goal post. He does that. He rushes another behind. the only option that he could have taken.
Port Adelaide have made a ruck change. Danny Jarks has just come off. And Gilligan on, and we noticed that Danny Jarks had a heavy knock about 5 or 6 minutes ago. Clayton gets a good shepherd by Ashley. Goes long to half forward. Setri sets out after it. Brenton Daniel inboard. Just runs out of... Oh, he did that pretty well. So we go down to Rob Popplestone.
DB down here on the boundary used to be that being called a girl on a football field was bad, but it's not so bad if you are a girl, and we've got a few girls playing today. What was your name?
Alana.
Alana, enjoy playing football, obviously. Fantastic, looking forward to today.
Yep.
And your name?
Delaney.
Delaney, so you're obviously looking forward to getting out there having a kick with the boys?
Yep.
What position are you going to play?
Full forward.
Full forward, a girl playing full forward. I think that's what the problem was when Tyler came off as well, DB.
No, now don't be unkind, Rob. Oh, dear me. Rob Popplestone, comments on the boundary.
So Craig Potter just throwing his weight around a bit out there, just letting know the Magpies not going to be an easy contest. The ball's put down. Arnold should get his hand to it, couldn't quite control it, went behind him. At the bottom of the pack was Setri. In there also looked like it was Lockwood. Well, that was Arnold again.
Critical for both sides here in the remaining 5, 6, 7 minutes of this second quarter. Can Port Adelaide answer with a couple, and can Central hold them out?
Ball's kicked forward by Borlase.
It's often in a game of footy, the side that finishes with a run on just prior to half-time just has that sniff of confidence to the long break and comes out after the interval and really does put a mark on the game.
Now, our legal department have just examined that comment by Rob Popplestone. Rob, if you could report to them straight after the match. Gilligan's kick is beautifully smothered. And Potter, great work. The 1%ers, Ken, that's what you like about this fellow.
Exactly. Played a lot of football with Sydney and the Bears and has really just brought that element of play with him here to South Australia and really does lead from the front. A great acquisition for Central District.
Clayton, good mark. Just backed into the pack and took a beauty. Central's lead by 37 points as Clayton goes inside the 50-metre zone. Hodges sets himself, two hands, couldn't bring it to ground. Brenton Daniel claimed by Hodges, and Potter tried to just strip the ball and get away with it. But the umpire had already blown the whistle. Not long to go till half-time. You'll hear from the boys. We'll cover the Crows and Port Power. Bring Michael Noonan to you yet again, and Mark Naley has some interesting things to say at half-time, so stay with us. Put the kettle on now and settle in. We're right here till 5 o'clock. Don't forget too, we've got some great footy flashback vision from the mid-70s. And Daryl Hicks had some very interesting things to say about football coming into the 80s and 90s. Swatala flicks it on. Good work out there was Lockwood. Now Higgins has a run at it, recovers. Burgoyne tried to get it away with it, but Higgins did well. Lockwood, great tackle on Setri. Swatala couldn't get clear with it. Finally, the ball flicks out now in the direction of Borlase. Around the corner he goes. Great contest, 2-on-1. Cotter thumps at the ground. Scotty Lee holds his line over the top of the ball. Hulme comes in solidly and gives away a free kick. Well, Setri committed himself beautifully, Ken, and earned the free.
Off the interchange, a little fellow of his size, that's where he has to be. Head and body over the line of the football. Good work, Adrian Setri.
So inside 50. Pushes it out to the point of the square, and it drops short. Who marks it? Scotty Lima has just been terrific.
Lee dropping back into the hole in front of the Hodges lead, but being assisted by the ordinary kick, I suppose you'd have to say, from Adrian Setri. Perhaps one of the reasons why he's not consistently in the 18 is the Bulldogs release around the outer wing. Feagit back at full-back now, but northeast over the back. Will clear the ball up now. Smothered off the boot. Poor disposal yet again by the Bulldogs. And we see them bring it right into their attack where Jew sits under the football and takes the easiest of marks under a bit of physical pressure, but held his ground, his eye on the football, and took a fine chest mark. Will shoot for a goal, only 25 metres, 30 metres out, and almost directly in front.
He's already kicked a couple. The thing I like about this kid is that he can kick it from outside 50 off one step. He can run it off the wing, or he can hold his body position in a goal square like he did then against Clayton. And his marking ability is pretty good.
He can damage you from so few possessions. And really, this is money for old rope for a kid like him. And so vital in Central's quest here today. Points. That's the Central District Bulldogs' 9th goal for the game. What a vital goal it is at the 26-minute mark, 27-minute mark of this second quarter.
So Stewie Dew gets his 3rd. But I think it was the movement, the way the ball rebounded quickly, and the Port Adelaide defence were caught offline. Stewie Dew acknowledging the work downfield, because the central midfield today has been quite outstanding. As we go down to Rob Popplestone.
DP, a surprising move here. Paul Northeast coming off the half-back line for Port Adelaide, and coming on is Mark Tyler.
Might be injured, Rob, if you could just keep an eye on that as he goes to the bunker. He was holding a leg earlier. So we go back into the middle. Important bounce for Port Adelaide. They need to get it out and get one before half-time. Chambers gets the kick forward towards half-forward. Lockwood, who's been pretty solid at half-forward. Carr off the ground, bustled off it by Girdham. Now Stewie Dew, he's already kicked 3. Can handball over the top. He does exactly that. And Hicks gets his 3rd. So their key men in Hicks and Dew have both got 3.
Goal for the Bulldogs. Magnificent centre break. Scotty Lee has been in everything, featuring well in the better players on the ground. And that forward combination of Hicks, Lockwood, Dew really have created havoc. They've capitalised on the centre line dominance of the Bulldogs, and they've finished with fine goals.
Look at the good hands, though. Girdham, Dew, and sets it all up, doesn't it? And Hicks was the finisher. Both players have got 3. Both players have got their 3 this term. An important second quarter for the Bulldogs as they step away to 10-6, Port to 2-5. It's a 49-point ball game, 28.5 minutes into the second term. Gilligan wins the tap. It falls down Stevens' coat hanger. Should pick up the 3, doesn't, said the umpire. And now Port Adelaide get aggressive as we go into half-time. Well, there's a free kick picked out. It's going Setry's way. In other matches today around town, West by 19 points over South, Norwood by 46 points over the Double Blues, and North by 58 points over Glenelg. To the 50-metre line for Port Adelaide. Conway back to Scotty Lee. A high ball. Chambers works hard, got 2 hands to it. It was a good honest leap at the ball. Girdham pulled off it when not in possession, and will pick up the free kick, and the Central crowd love it. So the siren sounds. And at half-time, after a blitzing second term, where Central's kicked 6 goals, 3, Port Adelaide only managed the 2 points. The Bulldogs lead Ken by 49 points at half-time.
And the players Hicks and Dew, the main damage, they were just fantastic. They combining up forward in a magnificent fashion, leading hard at everything. Their work rate is tremendous. And what's impressed me also is the Central District's midfield's preparedness to wait and then pick the players that are leading, such as we mentioned Hicks and Dew. They finished with 3 goals apiece. It's been the team plan of the Central District Bulldogs that really has thrown confusion into, I guess, the Magpies side, and it really has seen them just, well, they erupted in that second quarter.
So at half-time here at Elizabeth Oval, Central 10 goals 6, 66, lead Port Adelaide 2-5, 17. The margin 49 points, and all the action coming to you live on ABC Sport. Well, Central Districts enjoy a 49-point lead at half-time to a standing ovation to their faithful fans here at Elizabeth Oval. A great first half for them. Well, one of the interesting aspects of football over the last 10 years has been tagging coming into it. And today, Michael Loonan looks at the interesting aspects when players aren't tagged.
Well, last Saturday it was off to the Sandford game, Sturt versus North Adelaide. I guess there was a bit of a family interest there in watching young Tim. But, well, it progressed very, very quickly into a very strong, free-flowing game of football. Very enjoyable. That was until probably halfway through the second quarter when Sturt introduced what's called, I think, a tag. And all of a sudden the game became a little bit stop and start. The disappointment was great for me. I left at half-time. Anyhow, that evening, off to watch the Crows versus St Kilda. And what a compliment to both coaches. The whole game, truly entertaining with fantastic football. And we were allowed to watch the terrific skills of Jarman and Harvey, executing, I think, probably what football is all about, free-flowing and very, very exciting. As I said, a compliment to both coaches, but the most noticeable thing, no tags. I guess Malcolm Blight introduced the word run-with type player, and rather than look at, I guess, the negativity of tags, Malcolm's produced a very, very strong, positive, exciting and developmental program for his players where he backs them in against the opposition. And I think also Stan Alves. So it's very interesting that both those clubs are very well placed in the 8 and both have an extremely positive approach to playing quality football. So for me, tags, well, I think they're an absolute blight on the game.
I absolutely agree with that, Michael. Great comment. What about you, Ken? Tags, a blight on the game? You used them as a St Kilda coach.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think you need to have tags on certainly the best players. I think
you might need to, but it doesn't mean that it makes the game any better. I know as an AFL coach you've got a lot of... You feel compelled almost to use a tagger, but for the spectator...
Well, free-flowing, exciting football is great, David, but you want to play winning football, and that's what it's all about, I think.
OK, fair enough. Winning football is what the Brisbane Bears did last night at the Gabba against the Crows. It was a tough, hard-hitting affair. At half-time, the Crows were trailing by 18 points. They got back in within 1 point, but couldn't go on with it.
That's right. The Brisbane Bears then knuckled down. They seem to have lapsed a little bit in concentration at that stage when the Crows did hit back, but they were the superior side all night, outscored them on every quarter.
Mark, it's always going to be difficult, isn't it? 6-day break for the Crows, a long trip to Brisbane, and they travelled up 24 hours before. They had a long time to sit around.
Yeah, definitely, Dave. You just see there on screen. I mean, it is a long way to go. I mean, they sat around there most of Friday. It really does. I reckon it does take its toll. But you saw one player on the screen there. Tony Modest, 6 goals again last night. He is having a sensational season.
Rob, you saw a bit of the Crows last night. Did you see Malcolm Blight suggested he's going to make a few changes? Any changes that you think are imminent?
Well, look, none really stood out. Look, I just think on the night they were beaten by a far better side in front of a strong home crowd. And really, that was at the end of the day, I think that was the story. I don't think there was any real poor performers. But at the end of the day, I suppose it's pretty hard to stick with the losing side, isn't it?
It is, Ken. 5 out of the next 6 at home at Footy Park for the Crows. They travel pretty well there. And there's we'll just cover the scoreboard first. 17-16, 118. Brisbane, 13-9, 87. And it's still a worry that the Crows are only able to kick that 13-14 goals. They're not kicking often over 100.
That's right, but it certainly is a big advantage to have those number of games at home in the closing of the season. Can they, however, address the problem of winning away from home?
What about next week? Adelaide-Richmond at Football Park, an interesting contest there.
The Tigers are tenacious, but gee, if the Crows have got anything at all, you'd have to see them get up.
Well, what about Port Adelaide West Coast last week in Perth? Port Adelaide again in contention to win, but couldn't go on with it.
Yes, and I don't think they'll be able to win this weekend either. I think the Pies will blitz them, but look, the West Coast, they're a side that's up and down.
What, at home? You think they're going to lose at home?
Port Adelaide, yes, I do this weekend.
Well, Mark, we throw to you. What about the Port Power against the Collingwood Magpies in Adelaide? Surely the Power would be favourites.
Well, they're due for a win, aren't they? I mean, they've played a couple of games now where they have been defeated. I think they're due for one. And I just think Collingwood's last week was an effort. It was a good effort, but they played at home against their home crowd. But I just feel tomorrow night with the player in screen there, Wanganeen at the helm, I just believe that the Power will get up and they will win well.
Wanganeen kicked 3 inspirational goals. This one is a beauty coming out of the middle, and he gave Scotty Cummins another option up in the forward line.
It's a very talented player, Wanganeen, and there'll be many go through the turnstiles to watch both him and Nathan Buckley.
Yes, I agree with you there. Sumich kicking a blinder of a goal. Hasn't he had mixed fortunes? Playing centre-half back with South Fremantle. Came out and really did a fair job at full forward. And Gardner was an important player. No wonder he was the #1 draft pick last year. And that was a great goal. And he was an important player at centre forward. There's the final scoreboard. 12-13, 85 West Coast. Port Adelaide again not able to kick a big score. 9-13, 67. So I suppose it comes back to tonight. The Power take on Collingwood. You don't think they can win. I believe they can.
Well, I think, look, the reason that probably Port Adelaide haven't been able to kick big scores is they play so much man-on-man, that the negativity or the tagging that we talked about so much before. It's been successful for Port Adelaide, their accountability, their responsibility just to beat their opponent one-on-one. Collingwood with the two rockers, Nathan Buckley, the likes of Russell and other players in the midfield, I think might just have too much experience to exploit those positions. Like, have the one-on-one certainly, but then just from the set plays and neutral situations, I think Collingwood will be able to put a score on the board, which will see them come up as victors.
John Carl's got enormous pride. I know he counts big losses, and big losses against the side that he once coached, important on his resume. And I can tell you, he'll have them fired up tonight. He won't want to be losing to Collingwood twice in the season, no doubt about that. As we go to the Port Power lineup, and they look pretty solid, don't they? Right around the ground. Paxman at full-back doing a fair job. Mead at centre-half-back has got better, and Lyle in the middle doing a great job. Poole, a bit underdone at centre-half-forward. I'm worried about him, Ken.
Yes, you'd have to say that. But then again, best players in the SANFL doesn't warrant automatic selection. Like, Poole certainly wasn't in the better players for Port last week, but he's in the key position, the most important position on the ground for Port tonight. Heaver in the forward pocket, Primus and Lade combining in the ruck. I think they're a big key. If they can stand up injury-free and continue to have an influence on the game, they can go a long way to Port's fortunes this year.
Mark, Collingwood Magpies with Nathan Buckley in terrific form. 43 possessions last week. What will they do to destabilise him tonight?
Yeah, we're just trying to find a player. I mean, I don't think a Wilson would be the sort of person that I believe that would go with him. I mean, it's pretty hard to think of a player that will in that Port Adelaide lineup. But you go through them. In Williams in the middle is a very exciting player. Russell's having a very, very good year. Francis naturally is around the mark as well. I mean, he's back and he's starting to find his feet.
The two Rocker boys were the ones that did the damage last week. When they're in form, Collingwood look a different side.
Oh, they definitely do. I mean, they need Sav and also his brother Anthony kicking goals, and they did that last week, and that's why they won.
And John Cale, fellas, has been complaining about free kicks. Rob Bobblestone, you're an umpire's observer. What do you think about Port Power? Are they getting the raw deal in terms of the umpiring decisions?
No, I don't think they're getting the raw deal at all, DB. I think that was just a good headline to make what was an average story, to tell you the truth. Look, I don't think Port Power will be too concerned about the free kick count. They're concerned about winning games, and I think they're doing an admirable job. And I think they'll win tonight. I think that if they can get on top of the Rocker boys and Buckley, who I suggest would be tagged by maybe Carter, that Port Power will go all the way.
Fair enough. Well, one of the great things from last week's Collingwood game was the Nathan Buckley goal. Just watch him come out of the centre against Fremantle. One bounce, 60 out, Ken, steadies and goals.
I've got to equate a little story which Port Adelaide supporters may remember. Came to Adelaide to watch Nathan Buckley play. Brett Chalmers tapped the ball down in the centre of the football park. Buckley took 2 steps and put it through.
In the grand final.
Sensational.
Yeah, he's not a bad player, is he? And if they can curb him tonight, I think the Power can definitely win, no doubt about that. Well, it's time for the man known as Hard as Nails. Mark, this week you've been doing a little bit of recruiting around the SANFL.
Yeah, it's been my week. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the season. Only about 2 months to go until we into the major round. So this week I I sat down and started doing a little bit of homework. The players that I believe that will get picked up in the AFL draft, or who should be around the market. When we saw Port Power at the start of last year, or end of last year, I mean, they put together a fairly formidable squad with the players from the SANFL. I mean, the likes of Mead and also Dickey and Francis, those sorts of players were out there, and also Franco, and there's a number of players that Adelaide that they brought in. So this week I've sort of sat down and I've gone through and I've named my players, and I have put them in order from 1 to 25.
Now, Brodie Atkins, I presume, is your number one draft choice. Is that 1 through 25?
Yeah, starting from the top, you've got Brodie Atkinson and also Tim Noonan. Those two players there just surprised me that they haven't been picked up again. I mean, both players are really two of the highest skills. I mean, they are natural footballers. They are very, very good work ethics, both players. And the third player there, you see Brett Higgins. I mentioned before on the call that I believe that he is the next Michael Wilson. He has got the same sort of attitude, same work ethic, same fearless commitment at the football, and also has very, very high skill levels. Young Brad Ott, which we've seen this year for the Bays. I mean,
All-Australian in the under-18 competition, Brad Otten, so I think you'd have to agree with that. But what you're saying, I suppose, with Danny Morton, James Tyson, Anthony Harvey, is that perhaps second time around they'll go a little better.
Well, I reckon they will. I mean, I believe that the talent scouts, they possibly would be looking at people like that. I mean, you've got to... Okay, we saw this year with Mead coming in. I mean, Mead is just having a sensational year. I mean, he's been around the mark for a while. He's into his mid-20s. I mean, players like that, like Anthony Harvey, I reckon he's due to have another crack at it. Damien Hicks was singing out here today. I mean, he's kicked a couple of goals already, 2 or 3 goals already. He's around the mark there. The one player that I've been surprised with, Lachlan Bowman. I mean, if you talk to the scouts over there, and they believe him. I mean, you talk to Noah, they just don't have a very high opinion of Lachlan Bowman. But I tell you now, he is a very, very, very exciting player that
I think you're talking about a few years ago. I think there was a question mark a few years ago about Lachlan Bowman, and that's what you're referring referring to, Mark. But I suppose now, with his form in the last year or so, he has got a lot tougher. Now, these are draft possibilities. These are your second stringers, I guess. And Shane Hodges from North, who's probably in the middle there, one of the Magarey medal favourites this year.
Yeah, we'll just go through them. There's a few players there. Okay, there's a few debutant players this year in the SANFL that I've got in, like Chad Corns there at number 24.
Now, Seamus Maloney is listed as coming from South, but he's, of course, a Sturt player.
Sturt player, that's right.
And Phil Carman has a very high regard for him.
Yes, he has. I mean, if you speak to Phil, I mean, he'll tell you a couple of his good players. There's one is Maloney and one back on the other page, which was the big ruckman was Simon Feast. But one I think you might notice there is that there's not too many big fellas amongst my list, and I just, feeling at the moment that they're, in our SANFL ranks at the moment, there's not some real big players. Like there's Wayne Thornborough down at the Bay, and they're possibly seeing, even out of today, the big fella and Arnold and also Jarks out here. The big ruckman, the big dominating ruckman, they're not really no longer around.
Fair enough. Benny Thompson you had on your second page. So I can tell you that there's 3 or 4 clubs sniffing around about him. He's a tall centre half back, rangy athletic type, and I think you've been a bit hard putting him on your second page. I think he'll be taken high next year amongst the SANFL best. Well, you've also been doing a bit of work on AFL coaches again.
Yeah, we see it this week. My little birdie's been flying around the Melbourne offices again, and I believe that one of our coaches over here, and the likes of Peter Rode, has possibly been approached, I believe, to look at a position with Carlton next year. So
Mark,
that might not happen.
No. Now, Peter Rode has come out and said he's committed to Norwood for the next 3 years. You're being a bit scurrilous there.
Well, I'm just hearing what I've heard over there during the week, and I've been told that someone like Peter Rode, who was a former teammate of mine, and also I reckon when Ken was around there as well, Peter Rode's come across to Adelaide and spent a bit of time here. He's done well with Norwood. They'll play in this year's grand final, there's no doubt about that.
Ken Sheldon back to coach in the AFL. Ken Sheldon back to coach in the AFL. Is that a chance?
That rumour.
OK, we'll start one today, perhaps. Now, you've also been worried about the blood rule in the AFL this past week.
Well, there's a little bit of a rumour that was maybe circulated on the Footy Show, on Channel 9 Footy Show during the week by Jason Dunstall, that one of the players is a player running around the AFL ranks at the moment that wants to declare his homosexuality. Now, great for the blood route, but this player, I've been told, is in one of the top 10 players, a pretty exciting player, and I'm sure there'll be a few broken hearts from a few women around Australia once they find out who the player is. But my advice to that player is, I don't think he needs to come out. OK, there was a rugby league player, Ian Roberts, came out and declared his homosexuality. Now, I just feel this player, and I'm saying he is a very high profile, he is a marketable player, he is. Just leave that away. I reckon what he does outside of football, leave that alone. At the moment, he's a marketable player, and I know that club's market department are very, very scared when it will be released, and it might be any day now. That's what I'm a bit frightened of.
So your advice is to stay with the sponsorship dollars and the endorsements that you've got and say nothing.
It could cost him $1 million, as simple as that. It could cost him $1 million once it comes out, and the player is only a young player. He's got a lot of football ahead of him. If it does come out, I just feel that people around the club, and also the players that he's playing with, and also the people that support him. And he does. He's a fairly very high-profile player.
OK, those comments are Mark Nayley's own personal comments. Of course, we can't endorse them one way or the other in reality. Of course, the AFL last year celebrated their 100th year anniversary. The AFL's been around that long. The SANFL's been around 120 years. We took some vision from 1977, celebrating 100 years of football. I think you'll enjoy it.
The roll call in the dressing room read like a who's who of Australian rules football in South Australia during the 50s and 60s. They were the boom years when the threat from soccer was almost non-existent. Australia's national game reigned supreme, yet it was never really played on a national level. Even now, it's still in its infancy in Queensland and New South Wales, and the prospects of South Australia playing Victoria in an interstate match in this or any other season are gloomy. Today's centenary was an ideal opportunity for reunions and a chance to ponder where Australian rules is heading after the first 100 years.
Whilst we're in a very competitive period at the moment, other codes really giving us a run for our money, I think that we're going to find in the next few years when football becomes a vehicle for sponsorship, that sponsors are going to find professional sport and the attributes of our game with its physical contact and spectacular play will really be useful for prime time, night, live TV. And I think that's where the sport of the future will fail or succeed. And I predict, therefore, a great future for our code on those guidelines.
Well, I've got no doubt in my mind that it'll last another 100 years. I think it's a wonderful game. I think it's developed over the years, and it's got a bright future.
I think within a short time, and who knows, 5 years, 10 years, I think every player will be fully professional. I think then there will be enough money in the game, the sponsorships and so forth, but I think that'll be 5 or 10 years away.
The former champions came together today to demonstrate how the game has changed during the past 100 years, and they'd be the first to admit that even more changes have to be made if Australian rules is to hold its appeal in the next century. Yet many supporters would argue that changes need to be made quickly, and that doesn't look likely because of the present feud between Victoria and the other states.
If you look at the game hasn't changed a great deal in this century. Most of the changes that took place in football occurred in the 19th century. And I don't think there are going to be many changes to our game because I think it's a wonderful game.
I think in the last 5 years the game has tremendously increased in speed. Players play on. No longer do we go back for a mark or a kick, which you'll find out today. They used to 100 years ago. The fitness in the last 10 years, knowing myself when I played and I thought I was fairly fit, no way would have we been as fit as the players playing today.
I personally believe that we must look at the game at a number of levels. Certainly there is a professional game, the league game we'll see today. Also there's a junior football area where we should have a modified game. And I think also now that there needs to be a recreational game developed. A game for the people like myself, too old to play league football, but who would still like to play the game and don't want to be too sore on Monday and Tuesday.
I don't see soccer as a great threat to Australian rules football. I think they can live together.
I'm an Australian, it's truly our national game, and I'm very confident that it will continue to be Australian football part of our national heritage.
Thanks, Tom.
No doubt, Hicksy, it is part of our national heritage, getting more entrenched every year. Well, what about John Halbert there, Daryl Hicks, the thoughts of Chairman Daryl Hicks at the time, and John Cale, the long sideburns, the long hair, and no grey hairs for John Cale. Meanwhile, it's back here to local football, and there's the scoreboard at half-time. Central's 10-6, lead Port Adelaide 2-5. If you've just joined us, it's 49 points at half-time. Hicks and Dew have 3, and Smith and Hodges have 1 each for Port Adelaide. I might ask Mark and Ken to walk us through the stats, fellas. A dominant Central lineup.
It's not that much of a domination there, really, Ken. I mean, look at the kicks; they're fairly even. It's only, that sort of that margin of 14 kicks. It's not a great. The marks are even. The handballs really have favoured the Bulldogs, but overall, still fairly even.
Thanks, fellas. The third quarter about to get underway here at Elizabeth Oval. Your commentators, Ken Sheldon and Mark Nayley.
I must apologise to Ken there. I did take control of that. That's just about the button he was. We see the start of the second half here at Elizabeth Oval. 10-6, 66 plays, 2-5, 17. We're looking for a cracker drag. The Magpies never give up.
And interestingly, the Magpies have started with Hodges, Smith and Nigel Figert at centre-half forward. Ambrose has come out from full-back to centre-half back, and Mark Taylor, number 24, has started in the back pocket. So a few changes been made by the Magpie coach Stephen Williams, but he really needs a lift from his midfielders. Players such as McGuinness, Geneva, Borlase, Higgins and Ashley really need to respond.
You're spot on with the call there, Ken. It's just he needed to make some changes. He's made them. Let's see now the players can respond. The pack is building up there. Ball's thrown out high and wide. Again, players throwing themselves over the footy. Coming out is the big fella, and Gilligan is on the ground at the moment. Hodges gives it across to McGuinness, up over the top. Again, they've started well in this third quarter. It looks like Higgins. Could be Higgins. I think he's brought up his first goal for the day. It's been moved out of the middle. He's now playing, it looks like, on the half-forward line or even the forward pocket.
Yes, you've called it correctly, and it's the vitality of winning out of the centre. The big fellow there was just magnificent in his strength around the ball, Tom Gilligan, and it was Borlase, who has had a quiet day but was able to force that ball. But what great hands by Hodges to McGuinness, and then equally good hands over the top.
43 points to margin as we go back to the middle. Loose ball falls. Scotty Lee gets it away. Looks like Polton's picking him up. So they're trying to take away the effectiveness of Scott Lee. Flipped out by Gurdon to Lockwood. In turn, Scotty Lee dragged off the ball. Play on, said the umpire. Carr gets the kick away to the far side and ball lays. Will be first man there. Will it sit for him? It does. Under pressure from Holme. He flicks it out to McGuinness. Now Port Adelaide are streaming forward and going long, and underneath this one, Brenton Daniel. No, the man in front's been paid. Well, they did that earlier, didn't they? Tell us about it, Ken.
Well, you'll see here on replay, it's very questionable, but the umpire was within metres, and the correct decision has been made.
Yep. So Brady Higgins, who kicked a goal just seconds ago, hasn't had much of the footy today. Got an important one. 45 out directly in front. Can he get his second? He goes long but wide, and he's missed.
He really did run too close to the man on the mark, and then at the last moment had to stammer a little bit. You see the McGuinness kick, and just like a lesson for any youngster watching the game. Play in front, son, and you'll be rewarded. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question when you see it like that.
The other call would be, I guess, from Coach Stephen Williams to Jack Daniels. When behind like that, you must spoil defensively. So incorrect defensive tactics being applied there by the Bulldogs.
Schwert to the far side.
Jack Daniels, David.
Sorry?
Trying to find Jack Daniels out there today.
Brenton Daniel. Sorry, kid. And Hereda flicks it forward. Ashley skirts the far side and drills it in long and low, but Scotty Lee marks, and he'll relieve the pressure for Centrals.
This is Holm on the outer wing. We'll go around Smith. He goes back off his mark. Get your head around. He does that now. Nothing frustrates me more than the player goes back. Doesn't see what's up the field. It goes across to Hereda. He's got the running Schwert. One of the quickest players in South Australian football. He's found McGowan. Will he keep it inside? He has. The umpire signals his hand in the air. The ball has gone out over the boundary line.
I can't help but thinking aloud that the BM magazine, the Central District Fanzine magazine, will be very happy that the doggies aren't coming from behind today.
Well, considering the topics we've had at the half-time break. But look, you'd have to say that the Bulldogs have been fantastic. They've really outnumbered their opposition in all facets of the game. And you just seen then McGowan, although that was paid out of bounds, there were 3 Bulldogs to 1 Magpie.
Well, with the flu bug going around Adelaide, I think there'll be a lot of people home in bed watching this coverage live on the ABC. Hope you're enjoying it at home and you're feeling better. Gurdon flicks it out to Scotty Lee. Hasn't he been fantastic today?
Best on ground at this stage easily.
Quite likely. Oh, look at this. Potter into the open goal. Did it beautifully and gets his second goal. Got one in the first and follows it up with one in the third.
You can have 2 votes too, David. You close the book now. 3 to Lee, 2 to Potter.
Yep.
Toss up the third vote. There's been so many good Central Districts players here today.
Been a few good Port Adelaide ones. I like Carr. I like Clayton.
They've been very, very good. And as we said, we could toss up the third vote. But the 2 best players on the ground are in the midfield for the Bulldogs, and that's one of the main reasons that they are dominating this game.
And I think you've got Gurdon amongst your votes there somewhere too, haven't you?
It's been good.
Well, Scotty Lee is playing on a half-back flank, but he is a very damaging, very attacking half-back flanker.
I think it's interesting. Interesting, Mark, to probably point out to the viewers now that Coach Stephen Wright, the coach of the Bulldogs, applied some tremendous tactics early in the game where he just loaded the defence and really threw confusion into the Port Adelaide side. It's paid dividends for him.
We go down to the boundary line and Rob Popplestone.
DB, an interchange to be made in a few moments' time. Tyler to come back off for Port Adelaide of a half-back flanker to be replaced by Paul Northeast.
Thanks, Rob.
Just surprising me that Paul Northeast is sitting out there. But you see on screen, 72 is playing 24. The Bulldogs are in control of this game. They can't afford to let it slip. Arnold gets his hand on the ball again. McGowan nearly takes out Stephen. His teammate. We see Holm comes up with it. He chips the ball up high. Coming out first. Looks like Nigel Figan. He'll run straight. It's not Figan, it's Evans. Similar style of player. Back to Stevens from Gurdon. Gurdon's got the player in here. Good shepherd from behind. The umpire picked it up. No, he hasn't. Good shepherd from Jude. Hicks plays over the Jew, the player who applied that shepherd, and it was the goal, the 4th one for the young player in Stewie Jew.
What a good understanding of the game, realising that It was outnumbered 2-1 in his favour. All he had to do was stop the run of the Port Adelaide defender to allow the easiest of marks to his teammates. You'll pick it up here on vision. Just to the right of screen, you can see Jude just preventing the run. Tremendous. Real football intelligence there.
Another game's being played around town today. West by 3 goals over South Adelaide. Norwood by almost 60 points over Sturt. And North by a little over 10 goals in front of Glenelg. They'll have a North improve. Here at Elizabeth Oval at Central, 12-6 to Port 3-6. Well, they haven't had a drubbing like this, the Magpies, since Anzac Day when Norwood belted them by 122 points. Swatala from the outer side through half forward. Hicks front position on Evans. Evans gave him a little nudge, did it pretty well. Back there, turns around the corner and drives it long and wide to Rowan Smith, who sits underneath it, takes a well-timed mark and feeds off quickly. Ball lays to Geneva. They're starting to run from defence, Port Adelaide. This is what they need. Now Darren Smith, we've hardly sighted him today. Burgoyne needs to get amongst it. Outside of 50. Spills it high towards full forward. Hodges bodies under it, recovers. Has he got the pace? Kicks it off the ground, and Hereda recovers and carries it across the line. The Central District defence has been magnificent.
It certainly has been resolute, but a very good build-up for Port Adelaide there as they link through the middle. Borlase and Geneva, Rowan Smith, 3 of their more experienced players having touches there. But gee, Burgoyne, hasn't he got a lovely turn of speed?
We see the security guards there down by the fence, 2 fellas. One of the new innovations at the SANFL.
The kick from Lee couldn't quite find his target in Geister. The ball's gone, and will go over Lee's head. It has. It's hit the post. Lee looking back at Geister. Possibly thought that he may have tried a little bit harder to take that mark in the air.
Scotty Lee, heaps of possessions here today. Really has been the architect, the general, if you like, the player that the coach Stephen Wright has put so much faith in today. He started him up in the midfield, he's played up forward, he's played at half-back, he's played everywhere on the ground today and just has knocked up getting possessions. A very dominant factor on the oval.
So this time Scotty Lee looks for a better kick. He's found one to McGowan. McGowan, which way? He needs to break it up a little bit. Will he chip one short? Got the young, that looks like Swatala. It is.
McGowan hasn't been a slouch either, fellas. We've left him out of the votes.
No, we haven't. We're still deciding that one vote. McGowan has had Higgins taken off him. Higgins done a reasonable job on Jarman last week, although Jarman was able to accumulate nearly 30 possessions at the end of the game.
Yep. Now Gilligan here shows what an athlete he is. Ball around the back, flicks it over, boom. Bit like the Harlem Globetrotters.
I must apologise also to Brenton Daniel. That was Brenton Daniel before. It wasn't Swatala. Ball's at it again. Coming in there, Smith. Kicks around his body, out in front. Looks like a Raiders out there. He is. Tackled solidly by Higgins, and that's one of his strengths, I believe, is in young Higgins. He is very, very, very good tackler.
And it's a tremendous thing for a young player that really, well, he's been demoted. He's been taken from the middle. He's had his coloured lowers today, which is no disgrace either. McGowan, one of the best centremen in the competition, but he applying himself so well now up forward.
Mark, Higgins. Now, Mark, I enjoyed what you had to say at half-time about the recruits, but I just worry why you're making it so easy for the AFL talent scouts by nominating all our best. McGuinness around the corner. He's a goal kicker this year. Leads the Port Adelaide club. This time, he's offline and a point.
Very talented around goal is Phil McGuinness, crossing from Glenelg a couple of years ago. Has had a reasonable influence at Port Adelaide. His pace is tremendous, and as we talked about, his goal-kicking prowess. Been around about today, but not one of his better games.
Hereda chips it short. Conway, who's done a good job blanketing Darren Smith today. In fact, high amongst Central's best, no doubt about that, because Darren Smith is a dangerous player in big games. Hereda back. Geister swings on the left boot, but more importantly comes down the corridor. That's it. The Bulldogs have played so well today. Over the top of it, Arnold flips it forward. Girdham, a long one. Lockwood comes back inboard, straightens up, steadies and puts it long. It's a 2-on-2 contest deep in the square. Big fly, and it's Hicks. What a beauty. That is a great mark.
Just giving himself a bit of space, did Hicks. He's very athletic. He's a jumping jack. And just bang, straight up, though. That's a great mark. Good mark.
Well, he's kicked 3 and gave the easiest one away to Stewie Dew 5 minutes or so ago. So he could easily have had 4 and Dew could have been 3, but I think they'll go to 4 apiece after this. As preparing for goal number 4. He's got it. So 4 to Dew and 4 to Hicks. They're leading the way for the Bulldogs, who advance now to 13-6 and Port are 3-9.
It's not about turn, is it, when your two key forwards have returned 4 goals apiece to the 10-minute mark of the third quarter, and the other player, their other tall forward in Lockwood, has been a dominating factor also. He was a player that was actually kicked that ball in to that contest to enable a very good mark to Hicks.
As we go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
DB, an interchange being made by Central Districts. Daniel Horn coming off for the Bulldogs, and for his first run this afternoon, Mark DeMarcy.
Mark DeMarcy, of course, Mark came in the side when James Sowell couldn't take his place due to flu.
Great courage shown by Ambrose. He is down, he is out. We see the Bulldogs going forward again. Which way will the ball bounce? Ambrose is very slow to get up. But I do take my hat off to him. Do give him credit. That was just sensational courage.
It's good commitment from all there. Ball hit the deck. And again, it was Lockwood sending that ball into the goal mouth.
Lockwood again. There's Ambrose back on screen. Lockwood would be paid to mark. Very, very good reader of the football. When it is in the air, is Bowen Lockwood. He goes to his captain in Gerlin. The Gurdon. The Deuce Potter just chips the ball forward to Hicks. Good lead and a very, very good kick by the captain. He finds Hicks.
Good signs here for Coach Stevie Wright. He'd be up to the back teeth the way that the Bulldogs really are, just continuing on their way. And when you've got a side down and you've got their foot on their throat, you really got to bury their head in the dirt, and that's what the Bulldogs are endeavouring to do here.
Port Adelaide are missing Carter and Poole, who have been claimed by the Power. Roger Delaney out with a groin injury, and they dropped Flowers. But aren't they a different side to the one we saw last week?
So Hicks comes in. 35 metres out. He's kicked 4 already. He brought up his 5th of the afternoon. The flags are waving behind the goals. The umpire puts his 2 fingers up to indicate another goal is scored. That's his 5th. And the Bulldogs are really just chewing this Magpies to pieces.
Oh, they are wagging the flags, Mark, by the way. The tail of the dog is wagging. And they've plucked a few feathers on the way. Let's just really get them all out at once.
The comedy is just unbelievable. My ribs here, really.
Yeah.
Now, listen, what about this kid Lockwood? He really is performing well. He's getting everything that's coming into the forward line, and once it's coming out again, he's cutting it off again. Like he's playing a tremendous role at centre-half forward.
14-7 to 3-9. Dead heat in ruck. Loose ball, Paul Stevens. Great commitment to the ball. Flicks out, getting the kick away was Potter. Comes grandstand side, Scotty Lee is there. Look at Lockwood, came across to apply Vic Shepherd. He ran 30, 40 yards to make that Shepherd Lockwood. It was great play. Ambrose sits back, that's Lockwood's player. Takes the easy kick, drives it forward, but it was Lockwood who really created the play. Now Burgoyne, around the corner, just flicks it into space, hoping that somebody can run onto it. Cotter gets back there, creates a contest with Hodges, and goes to ground. Scotty Hodges, fellas, what's the ruling? You've seen him for 2.5 quarters.
He must be getting tired. I think he's blowing. It would have to be. This is McGuinness. At it again. Quick hands forward. Again, Cotter, who got hit very heavily in that second quarter. Lockwood again out front. Nearly takes another mark. McGowan is there. Hotly pursued. Looked like Higgins is back in there again. He's got his jumper number. He is throwing me this afternoon.
In the other matches around town this afternoon, West by 20 points over South, Norwood by 11 goals over Sturt, and North by almost 11 goals over Glenelg. So a couple of blowouts today. I was just thinking about Lockwood playing here for Central District, not being required by the Power. I wonder how many other AFL clubs would be eyeing him off at this time of the year. Burgoyne, and maybe this fellow too. Now, it's interesting, isn't it? A rookie team, and they'll target 3 or 4 players like Burgoyne and Lockwood, Ken.
Oh, there's no doubt they would be scrutinised, you know, they're being considered But the finals is really what tells it all about, what really tells the story. And both these sides will feature in the finals, so they'll be put to the litmus test once again.
Both Burgoyne and Lockwood will qualify for the finals for the Magpies and the Bulldogs, respectively.
So Lee again kicks the ball in, finds Stevens. Here comes across to Girdham. So Girdham's coming down the wing. He kicks it off the side. He shaped it off the side of his boot. The ball's gone out of bounds on the fall. And even captains make mistakes.
He doesn't make too many.
Just while that's happening, interesting to see Port Adelaide reserves win so well with players such as Robbie West and Damon Shaw and Melakalis playing so very, very well.
Sturton Central will feature as our match of the day next week. So with this great performance by Central, it'll be interesting to see how far Sturt have come. Damasi marks in front of North East, flicks it out to Stevens over the top. They are running. Potter has a further player afield this time. Opportunity exists for Chambers. He runs away from half forward flank towards full forward. Body on body, and Evans out body 6 on this occasion. Plays on quickly. A long probing kick to Burgoyne. It was a beauty. Right in the midfield, held up by Potter. Potter did that pretty well.
He's got to get back quicker. He's far too long.
I don't think Potter was letting him go. A long ball, Hodges. One step, thumped away by Hereda. High among Central's best two. McGowan handballs forward. Good work, Walker. Forces the turnover. Now around the corner goes McGuinness. Deep in the pocket and underneath this one, Hodges. But Hereda, just the second attempt, thumps it across the line.
Brian Hereda in screen there. Where's number 19 for the Bulldogs?
I thought there was a time when he could have been drafted or claimed too.
Just thinking of that then, David, he's one of the players that you just wonder if he had have been given the opportunity.
Well, he's 25 now. A lot of clubs, I think, would probably think that his time's gone.
So the ball's found its way on the outer wing. Number 43 is Watala. With him also there is Chambers. Chambers, that is. North East has come back on, chips the ball out. This is Walker. With them is Polton. Great tackle again by Potter. That is the turnover. That is what Wright wants to see. Coach Wright wants to see is that sort of commitment. And it's down there. It's marked. It's out in front by Dew. One tackle in the middle of the ground, Ken Sheldon. The ball is now in the forward line for a shot for goal.
Yeah, what's... Oh, well, no, in fairness, when I think about it, Clayton had Damasi running past him and just came across and bodied him. But to be fair, the ball was more than 5 metres away from the player, so I suppose...
Correct decision.
Yeah, no argument there. I thought it was a bit harsh at first, but really, in the true text of the game, it's fair enough.
Two key forwards now with 5 goals for the Bulldogs as Dew registers his 5th goal. He's had a big influence, kicked 3 in the second quarter, but back to that turnover at midfield. Basically, a 100-metre turnaround. Had the ball gone through Polton cleanly to a Port Adelaide player would have been in Port Adelaide's forward line, but no, the tackle from Potter was magnificent, and the pass equally so. Gee, what a fine lead.
It's both forwards, Damien Hicks and also Stewie Dew. They got 3 in the second quarter together, and they got 2 so far in this third quarter.
Danny Hunt preparing to come on as we go down to the boundary line. No. And saw Rob Popplestone stretching down there. He was just having a yawn. Sorry, Rob.
No worries at all, DB. I was having a yawn, got caught out again.
Yeah, I saw your hand in the air. I thought you were calling for me.
The man who just made that hot tackle, then Potter, I think you'll find, just come off for a quick breather, and Daniel Holm, who's known for his aggressiveness, also will come back on.
Comments Rob Popplestone, our boundary rider this afternoon, enjoying the sunshine at Elizabeth Oval. If you're a Bulldog fan, I suggest you get down for the last quarter. And I think this will be one of their great victories, Ken, of the season.
Well, when you can keep Port Adelaide goalless in any quarter of football, it's a great achievement. But 2 goals in the first, zip in the second, and so far only 1 in 20 minutes in this third quarter. It's been a fine effort.
Burgoyne round body, impossible angle. Would have been a miraculous goal if he could kick it. He hasn't.
Has he kicked 3 points, Mark?
Something like that. We'll just check up on our... It looks like 3 points. But my eyes are telling me it's 2. So Raider takes an easy mark. Turning to give the handball. Didn't see Walker there. Thought Daniel was out by himself. Some good work done by the young fella and Daniel. He backs himself, comes wide, kicks the ball up. The disposal wasn't that good, and he's found Carr.
Hasn't he been impressive?
Yes, Tom Carr, very athletic and understanding, full of courage too, prepared to put himself right back in the slot in front of the leading full forwards. Took a couple of very good marks early in the game. Has a good turn of speed.
The auto man. And Central Districts have been inside their 50 only 6 times more than Port Adelaide, so their conversion has been terrific. Stats courtesy of Ian Mogridge Stats and Information Service.
You see Daniel Holm is still warming up on the boundary line. I don't think Potter wants to come off. He knows he's in touch at the moment. He knows he's in form. He knows he's got 2 votes from Ken Shelton. He doesn't want to come off. There he is, still waiting. I think he'll be waiting there for a while, pal. Pointing forward. Burgoyne, what can he do? A little bit of magic. He needs it right now. Fegan shows the great, once again, to the commitment by young Connor. Throws the ball out towards the boundary line. He gets a round of applause from his loyal supporters.
Look at that there, just magnificent.
What's he throwing? Oh, you missed that.
Daniel, the player.
Oh, it was Daniel.
There he is, Potter coming off the ground to the applause of these adoring fans, and he really has and deserves that applause here today.
Only 4 kicks, 9 handballs, 13 possessions and 4 marks there. So the stats don't really tell the story. You've seen a couple of fantastic tackles. We've seen a couple of fantastic smothers by that bloke and some real strong, heavy, aggressive work done in that first half. Stats definitely don't tell the story there for that player. Smatala across the Conway. He'll chip the ball up. He's got the running Chambers.
25-metre penalty. Darren Smith running between the man on the mark and the player with the football. The umpire picking it up, although Smith was in pursuit of his direct opponent.
Chambers goes up wide. He's got the running Hicks. He'll get there. He does. Out in front of Evans. He's calling players out to give him a lead. He may feel that he's a little bit too far out. So 5 goals, 1 behind. 11 kicks. He's had 9 marks this afternoon. 3 handballs.
Pretty big performance. Sets himself. Trying to get the extra distance, puts the ball a little high. Ambrose with a big double-fisted spoil from defence. Eventually sees it out of bounds. The throw-in will take place only 20 metres from the Bulldogs'
In
goal.
other matches around town today, West Adelaide by 31 points over South, Norwood by 69 over Sturt, and North by 65 over Glenelg. So a couple of big blowouts here at Elizabeth. Central enjoy a terrific lead, and the margins pretty much adrift in the other games as well. '97 plays 30 as we go down to Rob Popplestone on the boundary.
There'll be another interchange to be made in a few moments' time. Young Stewie Dew will come out for a rest, and coming on for his first run of the afternoon, Simon Lewis.
Thanks for that. Lewsy was named in a forward pocket but started on the bench. Team balanced the key there. Rowan Smith on the left. Comes grandstand side. Ashley towards the boundary line. Intent was clear and the crowd don't like it. Simon Lewis prepares to come on. And coming off Stewie Dew. Thanks for that, Rob. Great insight. 6 kicks for 5 goals. Fair effort, isn't it? Good return from a forward. McGowan. Dead heat, said the umpire. The crowd didn't like it. They were looking for a free for a rabbit chop. Now there's some stats. 10 kicks, 13 handballs, Ken.
And also had his opponent taken off him, his second opponent on him now in Tim Ginnivan. So he certainly has been vital to the Bulldogs here today, playing in the centre. That really is where the Bulldogs have been supreme. Their key players, well, they've got them all over the ground now, but when the heat was really on, it was their centre line players that were clearly on top. Players such as McGowan.
just seen over the last 3 weeks, we've seen Nord out here at Elizabeth take charge and whip the Bulldogs. The week after, we saw Nord take on the Magpies, and Nord go down by a handsome margin. Now today, the Bulldogs have responded and they're thumping the Magpies. So the season really is open. We're looking forward to a fantastic major round. Any of the top 5 sides can win this year's flag. Strong work. Lewis runs into Ambrose. Across the top, Lockwood again. The ball smothered by Clayton. He keeps it in, then decides too much traffic. I'll just walk out over the boundary line.
Port Adelaide go to Alberton next week and take on the Eagles. Centrals will have Sturt at Adelaide Oval, our game of the round next week. So Central fans are certainly in for a football fest. And we get a chance of seeing how far Sturt have improved as Evans strides away from full back, but just lost the balance. And through the midfield, it comes back, doesn't it, so quickly. Crowd of 5,131 people here. We've just received that from the Central officials as McGowan goes deep into the pocket. Hicks came too deep, but Ginniver dropped back beautifully. Great defensive work from the skipper. He's leading by example, but it's unfortunately not enough.
Young Burgoyne could run with it. There's no players up forward. It's a 50-50 contest, and that was a ridiculous kick. As it is, it's going to come back. The turnover was there. That was silly kick, and also a game. You see the ball's come back and turned over once more. Gurdon's got cramp, looks like, behind play. No, he hasn't. He's up and about. He gives him a little... I won't call it. I won't put him in. What's the umpire saying? A little bit too high, Roger.
Might have been a bit unlucky with an open slap to the face there. No malice, I don't think, on the behalf of the Bulldog captain. But Burgoyne, who's been in the better players for Port Adelaide today, kicks the ball forward.
Ball's chipped up. McGuinness around his body. Goes forward. Hodges gets led to the ball again. Lucky bounce. Figut's in there. He's shown a yard of pace. He steadies himself. Great tackle from behind by Geister. And the ball goes through. Once again, rushed over. It's a goal. Where'd that come from?
Came off the shin of Figut. You'll see it here. He was dispossessed, but the momentum was with Figut, and the ball was able to continue to be pushed forward.
It's there. We see it.
See dispossession and bang.
Yeah, left leg. Foot. And it wasn't touched before it went over. It wasn't either.
So particularly good goal umpiring there. And importantly, the 4th goal for Port Adelaide. But, gee, they need to get a rattle on to get some respectability back into their day's outing.
They trailed by 61 points. Now, they've only had 4 times in the club's history they've been beaten by more than 100 points. So their pride has been undoubted. Lockwood, Ambrose. Lockwood gets away. I like the way this kid goes about it, and towards Hicks, and good defensive work by Evans across the line. It's not often, Ken, you see Port get a shellacking. Big crowd enjoying this, mainly Central fans now. In other matches this afternoon, West by 30 points. South are coming back. Nord by 83 points over Sturt, extending their lead, and North travel further away. They're 71 points over Glenelg.
Lewis, some good work inside. That's McGowan. Seen so much of the football. He's had 12 kicks, 13 handballs. He's had 25 possessions. That's his first goal for the afternoon. He's kicked 1 goal, 1. Great effort. Well done, Rick McGowan.
Yes, and his second opponent also. But you can see it's a structure. McGowan sitting back, a handball off the play, a set play, like just a training drill, really, and ended up with a footy, intelligent footy. He's laughing. He knows that it's worked. The plan they put into place, and just adds to the great performance that he's put on display here today.
Ball ace goes forward. Mark taken again by Cotter. It's not. It's Daniel. Brenton Daniel. I must apologise to him again.
Been pretty good, Mark, and half back.
He has, but you haven't called him much.
No,
Sometimes you have trouble with players, and he's just one that has got away from you a bit. Gilligan in ruck. no mistaking him. Burgoyne. Clear cut him. A long one. Hodges, front position. Worked under the wall by Hereda. Now Daniel over the top of it, threw that one out. Play on set the umpire. Hodges goes at it. Now McGuinness, snap around the corner. It's coming back. The goal umpire's a good look at it. And McGuinness likes it. He heads straight to the centre. It's through the middle. And McGuinness gets his first.
It's a good goal by McGuinness. As we've talked about, he is excellent around goal. And now placing himself into the side's best players for the day. But Burgoyne, the reason that ball come in forward. Good play here by Higgins as he just keeps the pressure on Daniels. Hodges keep in front, but snared upon it very quickly, did McGuinness, and kicked the goal. Very quick to get his balance, and that's one of the real features.
A 51-point margin, the 32-minute mark of this third quarter. Gilligan up against Arnold. Inside with quick hands with Ginniver. Game of solid defence through Geisler. That is Daniel back there. Gives the handball over the top to Scotty Lee. At the back it's Clayton. Very disciplined and solid as the ball was thumped out over the boundary line.
It's perfect vision of a tremendous spoil, defensive spoil. When you're behind, you must punch.
The ball comes back in. McGowan got the tap on that occasion. Forced it down. McGuinness over the top. Holm just dispossesses him. And the siren sounds at 61 points in favour of Central District at three-quarter time. And the Central fans enjoy it, Kim. They've been quite spectacular. Kicking 6 goals, 1 that term, while Port Adelaide could only manage 3 goals, 7.
And again, it was the dominance of the Bulldogs out of the midfield, where they really just continue to push the ball into their full forward line. Lockwood at centre-half forward has been a live wire, been in everything. And his other 2 complementing forwards in Hicks and Dew with 5 goals apiece have been something special.
We just see people streaming through onto the oval here at Elizabeth time at three-quarter time. Central District's there, 16 goals, 7, 103. Port Adelaide are 5 goals, 12, 42. And you're seeing the action live on ABC Sport.
Richard Ambrose is a player who started his career as a forward with Port Adelaide, but with Mark Tyler and Scott Hodges dominating the forward zone, he really wasn't able to get a senior game in the position. He's now finding his niche in a defensive role. Today at fullback in Roger Delaney's absence. Last week at centre-half back, he did a terrific job. Today we profile Richard Ambrose.
Uh, 16. Travel the world, live a long life, happy life. My football aspirations, I'd have to say that playing in this year's grand final, I've missed 4 grand finals to date over my career, so I relax by just getting out. I do a fair bit of snorkeling, a bit of mountain bike riding, reading books. I played soccer when I grew up. That was my main sort of sport, and then I had to make the decision when I was about 16 between the two. And soccer wasn't very popular in Australia at that time, so I went with football. Probably, I got a bit of a bath from the fullback from North 2 weeks ago, so I'll put him down at the moment. Oh, I suppose obviously very important for South Australia. It's a breeding ground of your of footballers that come out of South Australia, and without it, you're not going to be able to compete against the Victorias and whatnot. So very important. Biggest football memory I've got is playing for the Swans in '93, and the only game we won for the year was against Melbourne, and I think that was my second AFL game, and that was a fantastic experience to be with a group of people who hadn't won a game for 27 matches, and then to finally win that one, and just to see the joy on their faces. It's a pretty special moment.
Been a hard road for Richard Ambrose, hasn't it? But I just suspect that he's going to consolidate a place. He's tough and he's hard at it, but he has had a hectic day to day, and maybe the selectors don't like the way that goes at Port Adelaide, generally. Now, the highlights, second and third quarter, it was all Central District. Some great crunches. Cotter, late in the second quarter, upended, went off and came back and has played a significant role. And here's Potter on Bolton, just tough. Schwert over the top, and bang. Hicks gets some attention from Evans. Ambrose just couldn't quite get away the handball. And Fegert just gave it away. Stewie Dew snap, finishes it off beautifully. Now, Port Adelaide really needed to mount a third-quarter challenge, and they just, for a moment, looked like through Higgins early in the third quarter that they were going to do it. He gets his first and moving out of the centre to the forward line. But look at this, Potter, who's been Ken Sheldon's second-best player for the afternoon, really just finished it off beautifully. Now, this is a spectacular mark, isn't it? Hicks, behind Evans, just took the fly, held his ground, and very, very good hands. Great work, Chambers. Committed. Super commitment. Ambrose coming back with the flight of the ball showed great courage. And here's Fegert. Kick being smothered by Brenton Daniel, which was just a sensational highlight. And Fegert finishes with a goal off the shin. So Port Adelaide trail by, 61 points at three-quarter time. And you suspect that the way the Bulldogs are going, they've got no chance of getting back into this match. As we go down to Rob Popplestone, who tells us what Stephen Williams had to say at his side at three-quarter time.
Well, DB, Port Adelaide, a fairly disappointing, quiet and rather solemn huddle over there. Steve Williams fairly concerned throughout that third quarter when Central District's got their run, and it looks as though you'd have to confess that it's beyond them, that he's worried that too many of his players are actually dropping their heads. He wants to see them fight this last quarter out like they believe they can win it, and fight it right down to the wire, because he's been fairly disappointed with some of the performances of his star players. In the Central District's huddle, however, fairly composed. They know they've got a job to do. They're urged on by their supporters, and they really want blood here at Central District's. And why shouldn't they? Because they've been disappointing in the last few years when it really counted, and they want to hurt them hard enough in this game so they remember it come big time in late or in early October.
Rob, has there been any mention in the Central huddle of the last two grand finals? Has there been any thought of payback time?
Well, look, there hasn't been specifically, but I'm sure it's in the back of a lot of people's minds. They know they've got a job to do today, and I'm sure that those past memories are urging them on.
One thing about Port Adelaide is that they don't mind losing some of these. They like to win the big ones in September. As we go to the three-quarter time scoreboard here at Elizabeth Oval, with Central leading 16-7 to Port 5-12. Goal scorers for Central: Hicks and Dew have 5. Higgins, Smith, McGuinness, Fegert and Hodges have 1 each for Port Adelaide. And Ken and Mark, statistically, Centrals still are dominant.
Well, they clearly are, but again, when you've got a midfield that's doing so well, players such as Lee, McGowan, Potter, really dominating the game, your stats are really going to be in your favour. Centre bounce clearances have been in Central District's favour as well, and they've just been dominating all over the ground, like Lee, McGowan, Potter, Lockwood, Hicks, Dew. Their half-back line, Daniels, Hereda, Swert, Adams, Swatala on the wing. Like, they've had good players everywhere, whereas you could really only count a handful for the Magpies.
Stevens, Holm and Arnold being rested by coach Stevie Wright, who I think would be in a pretty happy position at three-quarter time, resting 3 of your big guns, and gives everyone a chance to have a good run at it. Well, the question, Mark, is are they good enough to beat Port Adelaide in a grand final?
They have to be around the mark. They've been there the last 2 years, and they have lowered their colours on both occasions. They've set themselves, they've lost a few players, as I mentioned before the start of the game, with the retirement of, maybe not the retirement, but the injuries to Jimmy Wind and also Michael Wakeland this year.
David Flood's retired as well mid-year.
Yes, a couple of 3 very good players there.
And Port,
to give it away.
Yeah, Port, of course, today without Carter and Poole, who are pretty important players, but Jared Cotton's missing for Centrals as well, so they've missed his 4 goals from last week. As we prepare for the final quarter here at Elizabeth Oval, stay with us till 5 o'clock. Your commentators, Ken Sheldon and Mark Nayley.
All is in readiness for the start of this last quarter. The umpire holds the ball into the air. 16-7, 103 to Port 5-12-42 as Gilligan up against Conway. McGowan for another possession goes out wider. This is Cotter. Onto the boot quickly. From behind was Lockwood again. He does time those lumps and those jeeps. Other way around possibly. Those leaps and those jumps.
The lumps and the jeeps. All right.
Long afternoon.
He is a very athletic player.
Yes. Is that it? He's a very athletic player?
Yeah. Thanks, Ken.
And nothing else?
Very deep.
What about his jumps and his leaps?
Just seeing whether he grew up in the desert.
Jennifer, Conway, free kick going Port Adelaide's way. I think it might have been Tim who caught one high, yes, said the umpire. Jennifer flicks it out wide. Now let's see if Port Adelaide can mount a challenge. They're famous for it.
They generally like to whip Norwood in these tight games.
Who's that player? It wasn't. It was. Number 28. I've forgotten his name.
Potter, important one, wasn't it? Northeast flicks it forward. Now Gurdon, who's been very good. Scotty Lee forward. Now Northeast again, fighting hard for it. That's the Port Adelaide way. Rowan Smith goes to ground, but umpire Pfeiffer indicates that he'll have a bounce.
It was good tackle applied by Stephen Swert. Real physical pressure, just tied that ball up.
Put you right on the spot, Ken. Any chance of Port Adelaide winning from here?
Oh.
All right.
If they play for now, they still get beaten. Look at this, going in hard again. This will be the first goal by James. Up his own, he's there. He's brought up his first for the afternoon. And the first one, the last quarter to the Bulldogs. They are going to, it could be a 100-point margin. That's what I'll predict.
Comment Mark Nayley.
It's a very good goal. Just forcing the ball forward at every opportunity, the Bulldogs. And taking the ball neatly with one hand on the run. And then balanced, landed on his kicking foot, head over the ball. A very good goal.
Chambers gets his first. Centrals get their 17th. They're 17-7. Porter 5-12. We're 2 and a bit minutes into the final term. Matthews. Jones it was. And Ambrose. Tom Carr. Rob, any chance of a Port Adelaide victory from here?
TB, get off those drugs and that drinking while you're doing the commentary.
Well, you tipped Centrals right at the start of the game. You obviously had a fair feeling about it.
Look, I did. They were fairly confident before the game. I think Port Adelaide is still coming off that good win against Norwood last week. At the end of the day, as you called during three-quarter time huddle, these aren't the ones that really count. The one that really counts is still about 8 weeks away.
Rob, I wanted to ask you about the feeling in the Port Adelaide bunker. You've seen the expression of the coaches and the players from ground level. They've almost been resigned to the fact they're going to lose this one. There was no emotion.
There wasn't a lot of emotion, but I'm surprised that I know we've only gone 3 minutes of this last quarter. Port Adelaide side are hitting the ball fairly hard as we see Roger Gurdon come off for the Bulldog side. And I think the Bulldog sides are fairly much in relaxed mode themselves. As you called, they've rested some of their gun players at three-quarter time, and they basically believe this game is in the bag.
Now, just quickly before we let you get away, the talk at ground level. The talk at ground level.
Talk's very good, but more so for Central Districts, because not only is it happening on the field between the players, but the players on the bench are giving plenty of encouragement to the players on the field.
Thanks, Rob, for that. Good insight into what's happening at ground level.
Brenton Daniel, one of my favourite players, kicks the ball up high. Coming out from behind was Hicks. A good mark in front of the pack was by the big fella in Richard Ambrose. So Ambrose. Just trying to think who he looks like, that long
Lee
loss.
Walker.
Oh, is that who it is?
That's called him half the day. Now, I haven't seen a tackle on his ponytail today like we did last week.
No, we haven't either. Ball ace. Clayton, solid defender. Swatala just taking off the ball. Cotter, he has been. He must be high on the best players as well. From behind again, this time it's Richard Ambrose.
Looks like a better matchup, Ambrose on Lockwood, doesn't it?
It does. Out wide, Jared Polton, number 15. Rowan Smith, been quiet today, gives the ball. It's a great take, one-handed. Umpire's giving some time to get rid of it. He did. Working it hard there. Again is Daniel. Out wide to Cotter. Cotter goes and finds Lockwood. He's found a bit of space over Ambrose. Around his body, punches the ball forward. Hicks comes running out. Which way will it bounce? We've got to pick that. Who'll be the quickest here? Hicks off the ground. Has he kicked it through? I think he has. No, it hasn't. It's hit the post.
Five goals, 2. Yeah, just hit the post. Goal umpire was right on the job. Hicks with 5 goals, 2 this afternoon. He's been quite outstanding. This fellow's done a good job against enormous odds, Ken, too, Tom Carr.
This Carr's been very, very good, playing at half-back. Showed a fine array of skills and a tremendous football intelligence here today.
Ambrose to Burgoyne to McGuinness. Darren Smith was tripped, play on said the umpire. No free kick there. Setri feeds off to Polton on the left boot, spears it forward. Tyler comes running out. He kicked 4 last week, but he's been held goalless today. Hereda has been just terrific. Lewis, who started on the interchange bench and really has just come on for a run late in the third quarter, lays it off to Swatala. He's enjoyed the run today. Home.
I really liked him, been impressed. He was really good early in the game.
Damasi, who started the day thinking he was playing in the reserves, came into the side, starts on the bench. Evans, who came off the bench to go to the defensive post, feeds it out now to Northeast, high in the air and under it. Great grab, Danny Holm. Now, you talk about Potter and Gurdon. This fellow is emerging as a leader in the 1%ers himself.
To go close to kicking this, he'll kick it from right on 50. It's a very still day.
I think his asset is aggression and hardness at the ball. I haven't seen anything indicate that he's got the real distance in his kick. He's not comfortable. He's looking to feed it off. No, now he's going long. I doubted he'd make the distance, so he lobs it right to the point of the square and signifies it. Look at that. Matty Jones comes in, the other Tasmanian recruit. They only recruited 2 boys this year, Holm and Jones, and Stevie Wright's been delighted with the impact of both players at the club.
That was a good kick. It's a 3-quarter kick just to the front of the square, and his teammate on the run had the leap into that football. Almost a set play.
So Jones, who started on the interchange bench, stabs at it and gets his first. Central's 18th. And they're running away.
You see here, eyes only for the football. It's a tremendous mark. Copped a little beat from Ashley there. You can just see there, like a 3-quarter kick just to the front of the goal square. Really, that's a good tactic, because if he realised that he couldn't kick the full distance, the only thing that would have happened there would have been spoiled over for a behind. So good sense, good football sense.
So the 8-minute mark of this final quarter. 1:16 plays 42. Gilligan up against Conway. They were swirled around his body. Good voice used. We see McGowan looking to feed it off. So Richard McGowan goes back this time, looking for a lead forward. He's got Gurdon. No, it's not. It's Satchel Lee, who's run down from half-back line again, comes forward, goes out wider. Number 13 is Lurs. Lurs puts it up, and there's a sensational grab by Damien Hicks.
The Roo boy. Oh, look at that.
Well, the athleticism of this player is astounding, and there's a great example of it, and one of the real reasons that he should be very strongly considered
Where did
for
you
the
have
next
him?
level.
Where did you have him in your list of AFL recruits, Mark?
Just check my little list here. I've got it fairly handy. Refer back to it. He was up high, he was. We look at number 8.
Righto.
So Hicks comes in. Fantastic grab. 3 or 4 steps. I think he's got the distance. It's hit the post again.
Twice in a row.
The thing about a player such as Hicks is that he's from a real football background, like his football pedigree, and get nothing but absolute commitment from a youngster if you were to draft him. And you know, perhaps some of the things that would be talked about against him would be his body strength, but gee, more than makes up that perhaps with his athleticism, his spring-heeled jack that he is, and he is an accurate kick for goal.
I agree with you. Of course, his mother Trish was a great footballer.
It's a great lady.
No, great football mum too, and Darryl, of course, coached Central with distinction, and we saw him at half-time. Great leader and a great football mind. Seems to be rubbing off on the family. Potter, where do you rate him now, Ken? Still second?
Oh, look, I think, you know, look, you can give your votes as you like, and those at home can please themselves, but to me, Potter was there when the game had to be won, when it was real red hot. He was one of the leaders on the ground, and I think you can't forget that.
Got no argument from me, that's for sure. Higgins tries to get through, lost his balance, recovers the ball, did it pretty well in the finish. It was a good recovery. Holder goes wide. Scotty Lee sets out after it, flicks it forward to himself. Now Lockwood presents himself magnificently, and Ambrose couldn't quite get there.
Well, it's Lockwood's work rate. Like you can see him there getting the ball, say 80 metres from goal. He's prepared to work. Like he's relentless with his run, and that's his real asset.
So give us your 3, 2 and 1.
Oh, I think undoubtedly Scott Lee, he's been the engine room. He's been the major contribution for this Bulldog victory. As Holm attempts to goal with the left foot.
No free there. Rush behind.
And the 2 votes, I think we've already declared Potter. We'll leave him there, and I think you've just about got to put McGowan, having had 2 opponents for the day, almost I think now on his 3rd. He's been just in terrific form.
Well, Tria, you and I concur on every line.
And again, it's a bit of determination shown on his face. He hasn't given up. He kicks the ball forward. Ambrose out front, takes a good mark. Not a good handball to Burgoyne, put him in a little bit of pressure. So Burgoyne comes around his body. He chips the ball high to Evans. Evans out front, taken a bit high. The umpire saw that. Either the free kick or the mark. So Paul Evans sets it up. He's got Ashley out wide. Good mark by Ashley over Cotter. He wants to play on. The umpire's indicated yes. In there again is Craig Potter. He dumps his opponent to the ground. Ashley again butters up. McGuinness onto Setre. Setre kicks it. Hasn't found his target in Tylor. The ball has hardly been up here in this last quarter. And again, we see this defence through Lures. Out wide of Cotter. Cotter can run it. He's got support from Lockwood, the shepherd. The kick wasn't good, and North East takes it.
Paul North East had a up-and-down game today. Found himself a few splinters at one stage, but responding now. Kicks the ball to Geneva quickly on his left foot, further into the direction of Darren Smith.
Thanks, Ken, for that. Great help. Setchery.
Blokes are yawning, going to sleep on him.
Ashley. Well, it's been a great day if you're a Central fan. I think Port Adelaide people at home would be lamenting this sort of performance. And you're quite right, Ken. In the first quarter, Central took it up physically to Port, and it's very rare that you say that Port Adelaide are out-bodied and out-hustled.
Well, there are a lot of turnovers at half forward for the Magpies, where they were found out. They were confused as when they had the football, and then with the turnover, seeing the Bulldogs just respond with numbers and particularly discipline to come back through the midfield. Players such as Watala that featured very well early, and particularly Scott Lee, were prominent in that area.
Damasi and Watala in the double play. Now to Chambers, who's kicked a goal already. Make that two. Straight down the middle.
Great work.
Mark Maley likes it, and if you can please him, you can please anyone. And I think the crowd might have swelled. Central District fans are just streaming into the Oval rather than out. And I think we might have a bit more than the 5,131 official people here right now.
Good crowd. Just follow that ball down. That was real good stuff.
19 goals on the board to the Bulldogs, 13 minutes into the last quarter. And the way they're playing...
I said 100 points, and I said at the start of the quarter, it's definitely going that way.
The Magpies really... Well, they've just gone to sleep at this stage. They've gone home, and they really have to respond here to, well, prevent a real flogging. for that Port Adelaide goal. Ginnivan, never say die attitude, was able to just lock up Ricky McGowan, and that's the reason the ball ended up. Tyler, tremendous desperation to flip that ball backwards to McGuinness, but gee, thank you very much, Tim Ginnivan.
This is the biggest score by Port Adelaide this year, other than against South Adelaide. We apologise to our viewers. We temporarily lost audio to the commentators, and we hope you're enjoying words and pictures again now. We can tell you that Central's only other two bigger scores this year were against South Adelaide, where, oh, Hicks around the corner, look at that. That was going to be something else, wasn't it? We might just tell you that 25-6 is their biggest score this year, and 22-14, both against South Adelaide. But this is a huge score against a quality opponent.
The ball's been kicked out. Clayton's in front. Good work from Gilligan from behind. Possibly should have gone for the ball also with the height. But McGuinness, with good legs, he's taken two bounces. Wastes the kick once again, but he's found Smith somehow. Smith around to his left boot, looking for Tyler. Tyler gives him a lead. He should take this. He's hotly pursued by Raider. In front was Daniel. Lewis is there as well. He wants to keep the ball in. The Raiders over the top. He's set upon by Evans. The umpire once again come in and bounce the ball. So Smith could have grabbed it out of the air. He doesn't. He goes to the punch forward. Cotter's there. Ball comes to ground. They should go for the safety of the boundary line. Swirt's dragged out of the pack.
In other matches being played around town today, West by 42 points over South. Norwood 96 points. What a big thumping over Sturt. And North by 11 goals over Glenelg. Another big loss to Glenelg. It's Darren Smith pushed it forward. Tyler, bang, first goal. Got 4 last week, but it's been a lean day today. And he gets his first. We are at the 18.5 minutes mark of the last quarter, and he's got his first kick and his first goal.
You see here, Smith, just through persistence, used his body well, forced the ball to the front of the goal square, where Tyler, again with good body strength, just out-pointed Brian Herrera, who has been a fine defender today for the Bulldogs. Tyler registering his first goal.
19-11, 125 plays Port Adelaide, 7 goals, 12-54. The ball is bounced again in the middle. Conway thumps the ball out wide. Ashley's there. He's set upon by 2 more Bulldogs as they're chewing at his ankles. I hope.
Nipping at his heels.
Nipping at his heels. Chewing on his ear. Doing the Mike Tyson over Vander Holyfield.
You have lost it today. Your halftime segment.
I haven't lost it. The Magpies have lost this.
Will get us into all sorts of trouble.
To Gilligan, Setri, out to the captain in Ginnivan. Ginnivan finds Smith on a good lead. Smith wants to get the ball moving again at the Tyler. It's a good kick, it's a good lead, and a good mark by Mark Taylor. Tyler should go back, kick this fella. For the first time in about a half of football, we've seen the Magpies go forward with a bit of positive play. Tyler very close to the man on the mark also. He has to kick the ball very high to get the distance. He hasn't got there. There's a mark uncontested by the big fella in Conway.
Lee from the back pocket, a long booming ball. Under it is McGowan. 26 kicks to Scotty Lee. He has starred. McGowan flicks it forward. Lockwood missed it. Setri mops up. Rowan Smith comes back inboard. Port Adelaide are fighting it out, don't they always? But there's just very little up forward for them to kick to. The McGuinness kick to Darren Smith was a grubber. Lures, wider still. The runner is Scotty Lee. Flicks it out to Lockwood. And Swert, it was. And Swert. Yeah, not bad, is it? Lockwood.
Hat off to him.
He's had a great game. Fegan. Half volley, couldn't quite get there, due off the ground. Fegan butted up for a second opportunity. Ambrose forward. Setri back in the double play to Fegan. Has a free kick, but play on the advantage, said the umpire. Ginnivan comes through the centre. They're playing with a little bit of intensity now, Port Adelaide. Towards full forward, and Tyler up, but in front. A great grab's been taken by the master. 34 years of age, the oldest man on the ground. And we might just give you his stats, Scotty Lee. It's 27 kicks, 3 handballs. He doesn't handball much as in his old age. And 6 marks.
I think it's been the prominence of those stats, though, where he's been able to get them. And yeah, that's right, exactly. It's been a real story in itself.
So Potter again flicks the ball, then applies the tackle. Polton throws it out. He's found like ball ace out wide. The running Higgins is there. He'll come inside. He's a right footer. He comes up, straightens himself up. He doesn't. He goes to his left boot. He's wasted the kick.
Just to elaborate on that story, in my mind, Coach Stephen Wright, the coach of the Bulldogs, really has based today's game plan around Scott Lee, and he has come through with 3 votes. It's just been a magnificent effort where he really has led and generaled his teammates from the front.
Lee, Potter, Gurdon, McGowan, Parada.
But it is Lee, the player that is usually in the back pocket, that's just generaled the troops.
Potter chips it to the point of the square, under it, big fly. Comes down, Holm will get boot the ball, and it's through. The umpire gives the all clear. Danny Holm puts it right through the middle and gets his first of the afternoon. And I think there'll be some celebrations around the Elizabeth area tonight. Get ready. They'll lift the roof off this town.
Well, to kick 20 goals against the Magpies is a fine achievement. And you can see there just numbers again, setting himself eventually got his foot to the ball. Holman screen there, 1 goal.
So 20 goals in 11, 131 plays, 7 goals, 12.54. It really has been a day out for the Bulldogs. Over to Lee, who's run down the ground. He'll set it up, he does. Has he found Hicks? He hasn't. He's manhandled. Again, they're still in there. Hicks knocks the ball forward. With him is Chalmers. He can't get it out either. And the umpire will come in and bounce up once again.
And that's where you would have loved to have seen Hicks take that ball with his hands out in front. That was a perfect kick from Scott Lee. And just needed a little bit of extension of the arms from Hicks to take it cleanly. Preferred to take it in the chest. The defender then was able to get a fist to it.
We're out wide. That's Jones. Back to Holm. Holm can just set it up. He does. He can't quite find it. That was 6 in the lead. Fee gets there also. The ball will go out. Beat both players out over the line.
It's interesting when you look at these 50-50 situations. The Bulldogs have been dominant. We've seen a McGowan goal come from one of these exact plays where they set themselves up. The structure was right, and they flicked it inboard to him.
Kicked up at the back again. Is that player? Very fortunate in the right place at the right time there. The kick just carried over the top. There he was. Damien Hicks. 5 goals, 4 behind, 9 shots at goal. Point blank range. He goes back, leans back on it, kicks it through the middle. That's his 6th goal for the afternoon. He's kicked 3 in the second quarter, 2 in the third, 1 in the last. So at the 24, nearly a half-minute mark of this last quarter, Centrals are on top.
Good work in the clinches there by Dew. Good pressure by Port Adelaide. Unfortunately, just not working in their favour on that instance. The ball going off the side of Stewie Dew's left foot, and Hicks in the right position to take a strong mark. 6 goals from the key forward position as his teammates looked on, all rugged up. A little bit chilly here at Elizabeth Oval as the game settles.
It's time for the showers for those 3 players. We've got McGuinness going forward. Great courage and commitment. One of the oldest players out there in Smith. As Darren Smith's kicked 1 goal this afternoon. 313 games of SANFL football. 32 years of age.
And 462 goals. So he knows how to kick 1 mark.
So Darren Smith has been in this position before. He puts it into the air. He's got the distance. He's got the accuracy. He brings up his 2nd goal. Then we see the goal umpire with a pretty little smile on his face. That's the Port's 8 goals. They moved to 8 goals, 12. Central's 21 goals, 11.
Darren Smith, number 28 in screen there. A player that I believe vital to Port Adelaide's performances. When he goes well, so do Port Adelaide. Plays the position at centre-half forward so well. Has his detractors, but has his admirers. And 313 games of SANFL football. I think that in itself is to be greatly admired.
I can tell you I'm one of his fans, Ken. He's played well in all the big games. And John Cale, I know, is his greatest fan. Free kick, an infringement in the middle, said the umpire. Timmy Ginniver caught one high. Rick McGowan, the culprit, runs away from the scene of the accident. And McGuinness just lets Danny Holm know that he's not going to be intimidated. Danny just baits Phil. Ambrose comes back inside, squares it up, goes long. And underneath this one, Mark to Polton. So young Jared. Well, there's a bit going on off the field, off the ball. McGuinness and Holmes still at it. Long ball towards full forward. Well, Tyler had the chance of flying and was called out. And offhands, it's hit the base of the point post and out of play. 77 points in favour. Stevie Wright, I think, would go home quite comfortable. Tonight will be a happy Wright household. Happy Bulldog club rooms. 27 minutes in. Gilligan thumps it down. McGuinness dragged off the ball, didn't dispatch it. Potter handballs it out. This is Jones. To the far side. Damasi in front of Polton. Lifts the eyes, 3 or 4 targets. Cotter runs on for him. That's where he heads. He's just going to miss the target fractionally. And out of bounds on the full.
So Northeast, as we hear the final siren here at Elizabeth Oval. Scores, Central Districts 21 goals 11, 137. Port Adelaide 8 goals 12, 60.
Yeah, and give us your best players, Ken.
Oh, I think undoubtedly Scott Lee best on the ground. Potter 2 votes, McGowan the 1 vote. Lockwood, Hicks, Dew for their goals. Across half back, Daniels, Herrera, Swert, Cotter. Name all the Central Districts players you like. McGuinness, Clayton, Burgoyne, Ginniver, Carr and Ambrose for the Magpies.
So the final scoreboard here at Elizabeth Oval. Central 21 goals 11, 137 have defeated Port Adelaide 8 goals 12. 60 points. Phil McGuinness still wants to go on with it. Ken, you've got to say that was probably the most impressive we've seen Central District this year.
Yes, it was a complete performance right from the outset. They dictated the terms and their game plan was correct. They exploited all the weaknesses of the Bulldogs and really it was just a total performance.
Sorry to cut across you, Ken, as we go down to Rob Popplestone. Phil McGuinness losing it. Rob down in the middle with you.
DB, thanks for that. With me is Scotty Stevens. Scotty, a great win under pressure against a good Port Adelaide side.
Yeah, I think just our 1 percenters, which we'd been struggling with earlier on in the year, just were sensational today. Our attack and our pressure on the Port Adelaide player was great, and we finished off up forward. And
it was a surprise to me to see a varied lineup today. Scotty Lee and Dewey down there in the full forward line, but obviously that was part of the plan.
Yeah, we Roddy come out with a few tricks early on Thursday night and just tried them and they seemed to work. So, you know, we got away with 2 points and it's been a great win.
Now, it's 1 apiece at this stage, but obviously the big one's what the mind's set on for early October.
Yeah, Roddy said at the start of the game that, you know, we owe them 1, so, but this is only just a small part and a few that we owe them, so...
And it was pretty impressive to see some of the young blokes put their hand up today too.
Oh, I thought Adam Spatala on the wing was sensational today, and even the young bloke and Craig Potter was sensational too.
He hits the body pretty hard, doesn't he?
Oh, it was sensational today. His attack on the ball and the player was just sensational. I reckon he must have had about 8 or 9 tackles, I think.
Now, both yourself and Roger Girdham coming off the bench with a bit of a limp. Both of you okay?
Oh, I think it was just from sitting getting cold there. I think that was mainly it. So, but a bit sore today, but no, I'll be right. So.
Good, Scotty. Good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll catch up with another winning Central District side soon.
Thanks very much.
Scotty Stevens there, DB, and obviously it's back to you and a very happy Central District crowd down here.
And they should be. They've run out to victors, Rob, by 77 points. The final scoreboard, 21 goals 11, 137. Port 8 goals 12, 60. Goal kickers 4 Central. Hicks got 6 goals 4. He hit the post twice. Dew kicked 5. McGuinness a couple. D. Smith a couple. And statistically, Mark, Central's dominated.
Hicks dominated. 187 plays, 270 marks.
Sorry, Mark, we've lost you for a moment. We've got another audio problem. 217 kicks, 96 marks, 117 handballs, 13 frees. As we go to the AFL results. Last night, Brisbane defeated Adelaide. Carlton defeated Essendon. Thank goodness for that. St Kilda got over Hawthorn. Geelong at home against Richmond had the win.
And tonight at Football Park, Port Adelaide Power take on Collingwood Magpies. Sydney and the West Coast at the Sydney Cricket Ground, a big match. And tomorrow it's the Western Bulldogs taking on Fremantle in Perth, and Melbourne and North Melbourne at the MCG. Next week, it's Sturt and Central. That's our game of the day, live at Adelaide Oval. 2 p.m, stay with us. Our Sturt have gone down today, but Central have had a big win. Norwood and West at Norwood, Port and the Eagles at Alberton. And on Sunday, South Adelaide take on Glenelg at Noarlunga. And if you're interested in any of the videos from our SANFL match of the day, they're available at the ABC shops. $34.95. And there are the final results today in the SANFL. West Adelaide 18-12-120 have defeated South Adelaide 8 goals 12-60. Norwood really got amongst the goals this afternoon against Sturt. They were 23-18 156. Sturt 8-6-54. 102 points the margin in favour of the Redlegs. And North Adelaide, look at that, a whopping 23 goals 11 149. Glenelg 10 goals 464. Now progress score, but I don't know that there'll be any doubt about the result of that match, Mark. Now, quick one before we go. Golden handshakes. Justin Madden wanted one this week from Carlton. They didn't give him one. Do you think they should have given him one to get away with?
Well, I don't think he really deserved one. I mean, been playing the game for 18 years. Maybe a goal watch might have been maybe accepted, but I think he's got out of the game what he's put into it. So I just think, go out, bow out quietly and go out nicely and politely.
Well, he said he asked for a Rolex and Carlton gave him a Swatch.
Well, I reckon the Swatch still might have been worth a lot more than what you and I are wearing this afternoon.
The real one, quickly, do you think that other AFL clubs will follow suit, get rid of players, ask them to retire, so they can bring players in for the last 4 or 5 games of the year off their rookie list? Do you think that's on now? It'll set a trend?
Well, it may happen, but we may see it. I mean, this was the circumstances where Allen was suspended during the week, so they needed to bring a ruckman up, and they just didn't feel that Justin Madden was going to fill that role. They brought a younger player up this week.
Now, what have you got for us in the Sunday Mail tomorrow, Mark?
Well, you see my rookie list once again, and a few other little things that will be occurring, but I'm just looking forward to having a quiet night out with you boys tonight.
Yes, we'll be at the Birdwood Hotel. If you're looking for Mark Nailey, somebody wants to have a go at him, come and grab him. You'll have to get past me, though. And you got us into a lot of trouble at half-time. We apologise for anything that we've... Join us next week, won't you, as we take Central District and Sturt at Adelaide Oval, 2 till 5 live. Enjoyed your company this afternoon. Join us next week. Goodbye for now.